本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。
What's good, Internet? It is Tuesday, April 27th, and you're listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 392. I'm your host, Austin Walker. Joining me today, Rob Zachney.
Good morning.
Patrick Klepek.
I'm ready to punch without aiming.
And Cado. You should aim. Cado's also here. Don't punch without aiming.
You can't aim when you punch. Otherwise, you won't punch. You'll shoot.
Oh, sure.
Punches are just, there's only so far your arm can go. You don't need to aim that, just swing it.
I would simply make the button for punching different.
P for punch on the
P
keyboard.
For punch on the keyboard, yeah, or like right thumbstick in, like the way. Is that the Master Chief? Does his right thumbstick in Master Chief, or is that Call of Duty?
I believe it is right thumbstick.
It's
classic, very intuitive gameplay design of stagger an enemy, walk up to them, wait for the left mouse button prompt, and then punch through them until they die. That's game design,
baby. That's the important part, really. You have to punch through your enemy.
Through them.
Through them. Okay. B is melee in like the classic Halo thing. I should know this because a thing I didn't say I've been playing is Halo ODST. I don't intend to talk about it.
You thought about that jazz soundtrack, and we're just
I did. I was like, you know what? Let me jump into some ODST. Let me see this shit. I played like half of that game. That game's all right. I haven't finished it. I don't think it really knows what it's doing with the open like hub space.
Well, you have to remember the context in which that game came out, which was like Bungie, wanted to make a small thing, and so they made like a hub world Halo. It was very novel and interesting at the time.
Between stuff in the hub world is very big sometimes. Like when I say stuff, I don't even mean levels. I mean like encounters. You'll just walk without musical accompaniment sometimes for like
just
3
hallways.
Minutes. Just hallway. I mean, it's like it's basically a city. It's like city streets, but those city streets are just hallways, right? So it's fine. I'm enjoying it. That's not what I'm here to talk about today. In fact, I only have old shit basically. That is the one with Nathan Fillion, okay, correct?
Cool.
That's the one with Nathan Fillion and who else? There's a bunch of. I think
Isn't that Reach?
Tudyk is in it,
or is they? Are they? No.
Okay.
No, ODST is kind of the fun one, right? You can't kill the entire cast of Firefly again for Reach. That's a bummer.
And it truly is the cast of Firefly.
I think the Doctor guy is in it.
I don't think the Doctor guy is in it. I think shithead Adam Baldwin is in it.
Really?
So, yes. Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Unfortunately. And Nolan North and Trisha Helfer.
I used to get tweeted by that guy all the time. What a weird.
Still?
No. My brain is thinking back to the era in which I still had push notifications on for, if a verified person, but you're not following tweets at you. And it's like, what? What's this? It's like, oh no. Oh no.
Miserable. Anyway, that's the Halo minute. How's everyone doing? Everyone doing okay?
I didn't sleep.
Yeah, I'm also
not doing great.
I got deep into looking at
Okay, so let me tell you how I fucked up. Emmanuel, don't listen to this. Jason, don't listen to this.
Emmanuel, don't interrupt.
This all happens. They won't listen to it till Tuesday evening. At which point you'll put in some work. And
it's already done. No. So, week or so ago, I was set up on an interview with the makers of this documentary, Colette, which is a documentary about a French resistance fighter going to visit the concentration camp.
I know where this is going.
Where her brother was killed.
I don't.
I'm filling in the gaps here in my brain. Go ahead.
So, it's been a busy couple weeks. Lots been going on. Never got time to sit down and write the article. It was a good interview. I just didn't have time to write the article. And I was like, I'll get around to it. And then last night.
And also, in this chain of events, is you pinging me maybe 4 days ago to be like, so, what's with transcriptions these days? How we doing
what's
these
the
things?
New tech?
What,
By the
Otter,
way, you undersold Otter. Otter's real good.
It's really good.
I know, but you run out of minutes, and then I guess they've told me I could just
I'll pay for stuff.
I can expense it. Yeah, it's a better AI.
The things I'm contemplating spending money on right now, Pat, like Otter is not a concern.
All right,
but
wow, fucking flex on them.
Dude,
I don't know. Is it a flex or is it just like also
what is the most expensive possible solution to running a music library? I must have it. Anyway, point is, so I didn't get around to it. And then last night I finish watching the basketball game and I'm like, hey, wonder what happened with them Academy Awards. The documentary fucking won. And people are like, what's up with it? What won? A video game documentary won?
Why did Vince Zampella get shouted out on an Oscar acceptance speech, which is definitely what happened, because I also watched it while grinding NieR quests.
Yeah. And so I was like, literally, this story's going to be timely for exactly one day, and that day is tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, fuck it. I guess I'll write the story right now and go and deal with this transcript and figure out like how to, like, it was also one of those things where like you're sort of working on the story in the back of your head. You don't really know what you're going to write, but like you're kind of working on it. But anyway, so there I was like 11 p.m. being like, I guess I'll just bang this out real quick. And there I was at 6:30 in the morning.
Rob
sending a 2,200 word essay to Emmanuel being like, you might need to read this carefully. I got pretty loopy toward the end, but this probably needs to run today. And so that's why I stayed up, because I didn't do this in a timely fashion. And then the Academy fucked me by making this story super relevant first thing Monday.
God. Well, I'm glad.
The second worst thing the Academy did yesterday.
Okay, what was the worst thing? What's your big?
You didn't see? Did you unaware how the Oscars ended?
I did not engage at all. Oh, this is the San Francisco where they were in terms of homelessness. No, not what we're talking about. Not the fact that lots of homeless people moved there and they had to be pushed out of where they were residing. No, okay.
No, that's all pre-Oscars. This is
I see.
I'm bad. I'm not trying to undercut that, but no, they specifically for the first time and I don't know how long, like reshuffled the order of the awards. And specifically didn't do Best Picture. Like usually if you don't watch the Oscars, like it's usually like, Best Picture is the last one. It's the picture of the year, yada, yada. Often like Best Director is right before that. And frequently those are paired, or there's like an apology one that's like, well, you're not getting Best Picture, but we'll give you Best Director, which is the nice runner up. Anyway, they put like a Best Actor at the end, clearly anticipating that like Chadwick Boseman would get the award.
Right.
But they don't, in theory, don't look at this stuff ahead of time, and it is a surprise to all, go back and look at the, see Moonlight from a couple of years back. Not only did Chadwick Boseman not win the award, but Joaquin Phoenix was the presenter, and he was really disinterested in doing the shtick they had signed him, which was talk about what it's like to inhabit a character. And he comes out and is just like, I don't know. That's not really my process. This is what they wanted me to talk about.
Oh my God.
Here are the nominees. And then the nominees occur.
I mean, once you've become the Joker, what is left,
Exactly. He's been Joker-fied for some time now.
Yeah, even before he was the Joker, he was Joker.
He was in I'm Still Here mode still.
Yes. Not everyone's in the same room. Like for the Oscars, I guess they had like two different in-person sites that they were like swapped the cameras between, and then had folks who were in different time zones on cameras. But Anthony Hopkins, my man's old. He was sleeping, doing what he should do. And so he wins. Joaquin Phoenix goes, he's not here. The Academy accepts on his behalf. Good night, everyone. Cut to credits. Oscar Questlove is like, I guess it's over. And then it just ends. And then also Chadwick Boseman was turned into an NFT and was given out to all of the
sucked. Yeah.
So that's the beginning and the end of this. Is like before the Oscars, Boseman had been turned into a gold-plated NFT that was being given to quote unquote all of the Oscar nominees or whatever. And then at the end, he didn't win, which is whatever. It was just sort of like the fact that they tried to set it up for this particular moment and it went completely awry was funny.
Funny, but also kind of predictable for
yes.
Does the Academy not know who they are? Like literally a track record of unairing, like largely getting these things wrong in terms of like what performances or films are going to be remembered from those years. Mm-hmm. And then 2, snubbing black artists.
I feel like the people producing the Oscars are a very different group from the rest of the Academy is the issue. And the people producing were maybe expecting something different.
I think they should know it.
Right.
I remember...
make the safe bet. Like...
People don't remember, like, Dominic Dunn would openly brag about the, like, petty fucking grudges he would carry out through his Academy voting in Vanity Fair. Like, his boring ass like column that they just had him running for every month for an eternity that was literally just like various incidents of like who shall Dominic Dunn name drop and starfuck this month. That was the entire appeal. And like there would be months where he was like, this person wasn't very nice to me at a party, and so I took great pleasure in not voting for them when their film was up. And that's how the Academy is. There's a lot of people like that. But anyway, so I shouldn't bury the lead here though. The documentary I was writing about, Colette, that was made for the Medal of Honor game that you probably didn't hear of.
It's the VR one?
Yep, you did hear of it. Right? Above and Beyond.
What?
I heard of it because like 3 days ago, I happened to be in a Discord where someone went, Respawn made a fucking Medal of Honor VR game? So that's the only reason I've heard of it.
Yeah, and so one of the things that apparently has been in a bunch of the Medal of Honor games, even though this has made no impression on me whatsoever, is they've had a thing called the Medal of Honor Gallery. And so in like Medal of Honor games, there's often some sort of like informational video or like a little bit of the history behind the gameplay. And so one of the people who worked on the very first Medal of Honor game is a documentary director and got tapped for this documentary about this French resistance fighter. And it's only like a 30-minute documentary, and it's being hosted on The Guardian right now because The Guardian ended up being the distributor for it. But it's really, really good. And I think what I found really appealing about it is that I think we're all familiar with like a lot of the archetypal Greatest Generation type gauzy memoir of World War II type stuff. What's really kind of bracing about Colette is that the central character is kind of asking throughout the film, like, what is the point of all this? Like, what do you hope to get out of this? Why are we going through this in excruciating detail about what happened to my dead brother who got like arrested by the Nazis and worked to death? And so, like, the film is really, you can tell, like, it's kind of set up to be this, I think it was set up to be a slightly mawkish structure, but the central character in it, like, keeps kind of straining at that structure and keeps kind of blowing it up. And so a lot of the beats that you're kind of expecting don't go quite the same way. And it becomes a lot more about how complicated, like, the war happens, but families aren't any less complicated just because the tragedy of history happened to them, right? And so the thing this thing becomes about is like, well, tell us about your relationship with your brother. Well, I didn't have a very good one. He was older than I was, and he was way smarter, and we didn't really get along, so I didn't know him very well. My mom took it way harder than I did. Okay. What was your relationship with your mom like? It was all right, but, there was that one time she said, I wish that you died instead of your brother. And, like, the thing by the end of this movie that sort of hits you is that, like, so many things, like, get caught up in, like, describing the scale or the sweep or the scope of World War II. And what you lose is that, like 53 million people die during that war. every single, like, they all have
They're all
complicated
particular
families
people,
and context.
right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so you see this and you're like, oh my God, they're like, these are recognizable family dynamics. And instead of them sort of trailing off over the course of like the normal life cycle of a family, it all kind of gets like terminated early and imbued with this like this character of like historical tragedy in the middle of these already complicated family dynamics. Mm-hmm. And but the real like twist in all this was that so it's a documentary short. It's not a long picture. They don't go into a ton of detail about certain things. They had to choose what they really focused on. And I think they made good choices. It stands alone. It's really good. But I was talking to the director, and he mentioned that there's one thing they couldn't get into, which was the fact that Colette's brother, Jean-Pierre, they were both Resistance members. They're part of different cells. His cell got picked up. Hers didn't. But it wasn't the Resistance. It wasn't the usual Resistance shit that got them. It wasn't like they were smuggling weapons, like, etc. None of that was what did it. He got picked up for leaving a bouquet of flowers at the gravestone of a dead Resistance member, which was like a capital crime in Nazi-occupied France. And the thing was, Colette had been the one to create the bouquet. She was bundling bouquets for these like nocturnal missions to mark these graves. And that's how he got like picked up. Like he and some of his crew were out there, and a couple of them got caught and were coerced into giving up other members of the cell. But like, so in this documentary, it's all about like, what is the point of doing this? Why do we have to go into this like detail? Why is it so important that you like know every little detail about who died and that we remember them in such and such a way? Hovering in the background of all this unstated is the fact that like the central absence of the film is someone who died performing an act of like memorial. Mm-hmm. And that kind of like, once I saw it, because I learned that after I saw the film, and it kind of tilted the entire film a little bit for me, where it's like, oh, this is actually a much longer like dialogue that Colette's been having with herself probably for many years. And so it's an irony that's sort of not apparent in the film, but is some really fascinating context outside of it. So in the end, like, I'm glad I wrote the article up. I wish I hadn't done it in the middle of the night, but like, it was kind of interesting to talk to these folks about like the wealth of good material they had and the things they had to choose.
Totally. That is on the site now, I believe.
Yep.
That is how Respawn in the Medal of Honor games just won an Oscar with Colette by Rob Zacny. Nice job, Rob. Good job hustling. I wish you had a little more heads up that this was this was a chance, because then at least you could have had it ready.
But I knew there was a chance. I knew it was nominated.
I see.
I just was like, I should really get this out before the Academy Awards. That's not going to happen. It's just not that kind of week. But they'll probably lose.
and then it's a story that you can publish any day this week. At that point, yeah. It sounds good. Thank you.
I've heard the game is not very good though.
Oh, have you played the VR?
No, I've not heard particularly good things about this.
I see.
The game.
Well, sometimes the game is good. Sometimes the attached documentary is good.
Yeah, classic dichotomy.
Patrick, what are you up to? I know there was something you wanted to get to last week that we did not, because you had to bounce. So we should probably wrap back around to that ASAP.
I did, yeah. I think I looked at my hour count this morning. I played 7 hours of Returnal, which is the new Housemarque roguelike that comes out for PS5 that I learned like 48 hours ago that is $70. I did not realize it was a
super full price. Yeah.
Game. I don't know how I feel about that yet. But let's set that aside. Returnal, other than having a very bad name, is
I'm back. I'm all the way around on it. Honestly, I've come around.
But that's
on
different.
Returnal.
You're all the way around it, like in a way that you've come like to accept that it's bad and embrace it.
Yeah.
You returned to it.
I returned to it. Yeah, I went all the way around. I've returned to. Is this good?
Well, just like the loop in the game. I don't know exactly what's going on here, but the basic premise of Returnal is that you are this woman on a spaceship coming to investigate a signal, I think called the white noise. You crash land on a planet that looks very, Geiger, very, original Alien, sort of a vibe, a little more vegetation, but definitely like pulling a lot of like architectural design from a lot of like Geiger's work. Huh?
Chia Geiger.
Exactly. Big ominous.
Just imagine a xenomorph with the fucking chia grass growing out of its like head.
I think we got a winner here. Honestly, I think we should send this over to who has that? Is that Disney now also? Did Disney buy that from
Fox? Have Fox. Yeah, they own Fox, so they own Alien.
God damn it.
You're
never going to go for Chia Xenomorph.
We had a million different Chia Grogus.
I was going to say, they absolutely do. I literally just Googled it and this popped up first. When I put in alien Chia, it's just Grogu.
It's just Grogu. Yeah, but I want one
all right.
I want a living xenomorph, a living alien, the creature from Alien. They didn't never actually call it a xenomorph. I fucking know. On. Don't write in your letters. But I want one alive with the Chia.
Everyone calls it the xenomorph.
Not the people who yell at me every time I call it the xenomorph, Cado.
I want to keep calling it the xenomorph. Xenomorph. Wait,
it's a cool name, too.
We're getting closer. We're getting closer.
That's
the Predator.
That's the Predator.
Ew.
We're in the same zone.
The Predator in the 70s getting ready to...
I feel that's
town.
Predator doing his best. It's like
oh my God. Man.
Shit. Hold on.
You're gonna get there. It's fine. It's
this
fine.
exists somewhere in the internet.
Keep talking to me about Returnal before Cado scares me.
Yeah, you might want to go to Etsy. I feel like that might solve your...
While he sends me the Predator with a fucking Chia perm.
So you crash land on this place. You don't know why, but you're investigating this signal. And you quickly come across the fact that you are finding like your body like in different spots where you have come
That's
through
no
here
good.
Before. Yeah, not great. It's not a great sign. You're finding voice recorded messages of yourself from a different timeline, and your character takes it with, kind of takes it in stride. Is definitely, expresses nervousness. Like, well, this seems not great.
Buddy.
But it seems like this woman has had issues before she crash landed on this planet, and maybe this planet is just where she's going to work out her problems. So yeah, it is if you played any Housemarque games in the past, like they often are dealing with, what did you get us? Cado.
What I don't understand is it's also a Chewbacca.
It's a Chewbacca.
I was real confused how Yoda turned into Thanos.
What's funny is that the Chewie for some reason like forgoes the hair on his face. That's different hair apparently.
It's different hair.
But they should have just made it all around Chia. All the hair. All green Chewie. Yum.
Tell me about Housemarque games, Patrick.
You shoot.
You shoot.
I don't think, what was the last one that they did?
They did was it Nex Machina or was it Matterfall?
Was that the top down one? Was that like the one
Nex
they
Machina
didn't make for Sony?
Down.
Wasn't that all on different platforms?
Wait, they did Resogun.
No, that was Matterfall. Matterfall was the one for Sony, I want to say. That was one with like a jetpack. They came out like back to back. Nex Machina was like June of 2017 and Matterfall was August. So that was like boom, boom. We got two of these.
I haven't played their last couple. The last one I think I played was one with like the alternating colors that had like strong Ikagura vibes. I forget what that one was called, but it was like a 2D like action Metroid-y. Anyway, like they do hardcore action games. Like that is their bit. They did, Resogun at the launch of PS3. They often are doing games that are like just really stylistically like fun to look at, like lots of big particle effects.
Very arcadey.
Yes.
They are. I wouldn't say that the only thing going for those games is like you're trying to do a high score, but like they're in that
vein.
Yeah, Super Stardust. trying to think if there's anything else that I know from them, but like that's the vibe, right?
And if there is like a modern genre that is the most like put in another coin, like give it another run, like the roguelike is it. So like the fact that Housemarque has found themselves now making a roguelike, it like actually maps pretty appropriately to their skill set, while also giving them runway to do something a little more ambitious.
Well, the thing that happened, right, was like in 2017, I think, after Nex Machina and Matterfall didn't find audiences,
much of an audience, yeah,
they came out and said, "We're done making this type of game. We're gonna shake it up, basically, because I think that they felt like they were making really mechanically smart and aesthetically sharp games that were not finding audiences, and so they were like, it's time to shake it up a little bit. And so this is the first time they've made something with like a narrative thrust in this way that I can, maybe not the first time, but the first time since this kind of contemporary version.
Well, there's they've made games that have like plot lines and like quote unquote stories. Like this is like one where they're trying to like weave it into the gameplay.
And it's also a third person shooter in a way that it's not like a top down arcadey action shooter or something, right? I mean, I'm sure it still probably feels. Tell me how it feels.
It feels very good. Like it feels excellent to control. Like no shock. Like playing a Housemarque action game feels like really fucking good. It's a you're running around in third person. You have a dash. Like that dash has, you can do a quick dash, and if you hold the circle, it does like a longer dash. The shooting just feels like, man, it feels great. It's really aided by the DualSense controller. This is probably the first game since Astro's Playroom that manages to do much of anything with the promise of like the haptic feedback that's happening in that controller. Like, short aside, my understanding of like why that's the case is because like none of like Sony really didn't hand out like the APIs for developers to work on that controller in time for launch. So developers were just sort of guessing at like how the controller was going to feel and work. So then Astro's Playroom comes out, feels incredible. You play a game like Bugsnax where it's just like, do they forget how to program? Like, this doesn't really make a lot of sense. And so I think now you're seeing games like Astro's Playroom was essentially, so one of many things it served was to develop toolkits and examples for developers to work off of. So not super shocked that like it's taking like roughly 8 months later where we're seeing games like actually be able to pay that off. I still think Astro's Playroom will look back in 5 years and be like, that was the best way to do it, and they did it once. But this game does do some of that. Although the first, man, you jump into the game and it's like, hey, let's explain the controls. Like, you can jump, you can dash, you can shoot. Do you want to you want to aim and then shoot, like get a little closer, a little zoom action? Just halfway hold down the L2 to do that, and then if you want to do your alt fire, you hold it. I can't remember which way it was. It was like one you like slight press, the other you have to like hold press, and it's trying to take advantage of the fact that you have these very sensitive triggers that actually can do like can employ multiple mechanics within one button. It's an L2, but it's you've got an L2-1 and an L2-2. It was like a nightmare. Like I spent like all of 30 seconds trying to figure out how to alt fire and switch between zoom while in the midst of like 900 bullets raining down on you. Said absolutely not. Went into the options menu, and thankfully you can turn it off, and you can just
put it on a different button, presumably.
You just put it on L1. It's like L1 is your alt fire, like L2 is your zoom to aim, and that became. I highly recommend if you end up checking this out that like you
give it a shot.
I know some people swear by it, but
is there something else on L1 to begin with that you?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, so it is just okay.
It is trying to. I mean, it's, people who play Splatoon swear by like the gyro controls. So like, I'm not gonna fully knock alternative controls, but it didn't. It felt very, in the way that the alien space of this game, it felt very alien to attempt to play the game that way, and I a whole cloth rejected it. So. Returnal, up front, it's a really hard game. It has a really brutal initial skill arc that I wish they would put out a demo for this, because I think it's the kind of thing where people need to get a sense of.
I want to feel it. Yeah.
I wish they would put out a demo that's like, hey, you could do 3 runs and then the demo turns off. And so you could get a sense of the loop. You could get a sense of the gameplay. Because I do think $70 is a big ask for a game that is going to punch you in the face really fast. Like it took me a good 90 minutes before I like started to get into a groove for it. This is a game in which you have, you have a map in the corner that gives you a sense of everything in the space, right? So you can, in theory, you can see all the enemies that are in a space the moment you enter it. There's no surprise. You're glancing out of the corner to look at this map while also looking in front of you where you might have 3 different enemies who are alternating between like 3 different spaces of elevation and also showering you not with just traditional attacks of like they're coming to get you and to swipe you. They're showering you with like 90 bullets that can like spread across the screen. You can dash through those things. And so you're trying to set up like dashing through that, getting to a higher elevation, looking down at your mini map. That's all in addition to the like myriad other mechanics that you're dealing with. Like, for example, there is what it's called the adrenaline system, in which every time that you take out an enemy, you are chaining together passive upgrades for your character, so that you take out 3 enemies in a row without getting hit. Then all of a sudden, you get an upgrade, like they will drop more of the currency. You will earn, like your melee attack becomes more powerful. You could get slight heat vision. And these are all different levels of this, like as you're escalating through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in addition to survival, there are mechanics that are like really built around like you just avoiding getting hit entirely. Right. It's not a big deal. You get hit once, you get knocked back to 0, and you'll enter a room that has 6 to 8 enemies, and you'll be back to level 2 or 3.
But that's like a classic Housemarque thing of like, or that's a classic arcade game thing, right? That's a classic space shooter, building up your multiplier or building up your how many options you have attached to you, and if you get hit, that goes back down to 0. There are definitely old arcade games where like. Or not even old arcade games. There are definitely, shoot 'em ups, shoot 'em ups where if you get hit, you're basically assuring yourself that you're not going to get like a good enough score for it to rate, or in the like the kind of fan game space. You'll end up like, oh, I can't get the good ending in this shooter anymore because I got hit once on level 7, and that means I've lost my multiplier. I had to use a bomb, and I need all 8 bombs to activate the alternate boss. Or
none of that is here. They actually have a.
But
separate,
it's still like a nice arc. It's a nice. Yes. That's a nice variation on that.
When it gives you an insight, it's one again. It's like this is a game in which you are. If you were to explain what you are keeping track of and what you are doing in any one moment, it seems utterly overwhelming, because they are just stacking like risk reward on top of risk reward on top of risk reward, and you're employing decisions about that like constantly. Right. And they take the multiplier aspect and in their daily mode, which like gives you a bunch of like very unique challenges, like when you defeat an enemy, it turns into a pit of acid, or long falls will damage you. Every action you take in the daily mode increases a multiplier. So it's not just like you're doing these multiple levels of defeating enemies and getting like passive bonuses. It's that every time you pick up an item, every time you defeat an enemy, every time you land a shot, every time that you access an area, that all increases your multiplier. And then you are purely going for a high score, in which you are just doing one run of one biome, like one area. And when you finish that, then it's over, and there's a high score at the end. And every time you do the daily, you get access to these. As long as you finish it, you can finish it last place. You can just sprint through to the end, and you get these keys that let you unlock. There are different chests in the world that are cursed. They're malignant, and you can open them, and you can accept the curse, which is like your melee attack is half damage until you defeat 3 enemies or find a chest. Or you can spend a currency that cleanses it, and then you can open it and get whatever, weapon upgrade or, various upgrades are accessible in the game. So that's like a reason to do the daily, even if you're not actually playing for the high score. And I actually will say the high score is like, I found myself doing it and getting into it. We're like, oh, this is a bad run. And all of a sudden, like I've cleared out 3 rooms in a row, and I have like a 30x multiplier where like defeating one enemy is like dropping like an incredible amount of points. And actually, I will stop doing this the moment this game is available to the public, because like right now I'm consistently getting like the best score in the world, and I'm like, damn, I'm good at Returnal, and then on Thursday I will cease to be good at Returnal. So it's all to say that the games the studio makes are always meant to be challenging. Like they're old school arcade. This is one of those, and then also dropped into a roguelike in which, you know, you can get into a room where they drop a boss variant that is extremely difficult, and then your run is over. And like the first really good run I had, I played for 2+ hours, made it to the second area, beat a mini boss in that area, was feeling good. I was like, man, we're just cruising. Like, let's just keep going in this game. And then like rounded a corner, like one particular enemy just like kind of caught me off guard, and it was over. Like done. Like, you know, send you back to the beginning. Which is just the genre, right? Like it really is just. It is the genre, but it is unique to be playing, I think, for like 2.5 hours out of 2 of 4 areas, right? Like in theory, it's a game that you could be, if you were playing careful and short, you know, you could be playing for 6-8 hours. What I will say is they account for that in various ways. So when you die, for example, you immediately when you launch back into the world, there's a orange sort of marker that's like, hey, now I know that is the transfer portal to the next world. I can just sort of sprint there pretty quickly, jump through that portal, go to the next area.
Is the world, the whole world gets regenerated? It's not just like, it's like, you know what I'm saying?
You're encountering very similar, you know, you're seeing the Lego blocks like apply.
Right. Okay.
You know, once you've played it, you know, once you've died 10, 50 times, you're going to see, oh, I know this area. If I come into here, I know that there'll be a secret over here. You don't know what the secret will be, but you generally get a sense of the space as you're going through. Of course, again, this is systems on systems. Every time that you are defeating enemies, you are filling a gun proficiency meter. And as that levels up, that means that the guns that you find are going to be, you know, more powerful. So you start at 0.
And that carries over from run to run, the proficiency
Not from run
meter?
to run. It only carries over from area to area. And so let's say you jump into a run. You're like, I want to explore more of that second area. Well, in those enemies are going to start at level like 5-ish, let's say. But you can sprint through, jump into that area, but you're going to start with level 0 weapons, in which, you know, if you know how to, you know, attack them, you can survive some of those encounters, but you just don't have the DPS. Like you're just going to be kind of screwed. But the game accounts for this. As soon as you make it through the portal to the other side, they have like a weapon, like an item that's just like, we'll randomize. We're going to pick out of a hat like what your weapon proficiency should be. Like if you were to have completely done that first area, like you would probably be like a 4, 5, or a 6, and it'll just pick a number, assign it to you, and suddenly you're getting level 6, you know, weapon drops. But you don't start the area with a level 6 weapon. You start it with a pea shooter, and you have a level 0, and so you just need to survive long enough in order to find like a weapon crate that will open up, and immediately you will have a weapon that makes you like fully skilled to handle the enemies in that area. But you've also, just like a roguelike, given up exploring all the items and passive upgrades.
Maybe there was something really good
area.
In that first area that could have shaped your run a different way, or
you won't have keys, right? Like so, there like lots of things are locked in this game in which you won't have the keys to open the secret areas, and so you know it's the risk reward of if you played any of these types of games. I feel like Returnal will, for a lot of people, maybe be the first time they've kind of engaged with a roguelike, because there's not a ton of games to play on PS5. It looks good as hell.
It's so interesting to me because, like, you know, we started this by saying it's a $70 game, which is expensive, which is like flat out, like that's a very high price.
It's expensive regardless of getting into the
100%.
You know, like the you know the cost analysis
and the meta commentary around like what is a roguelike,
what is a game, and
roguelike, right? Yeah, but like I do think it's very funny to me that like there was an era where I liked roguelikes and like got excited for, you know, a new console roguelike that would, of course, cost a full price, because all games on consoles were costing full price at the time. I think about like Baroque dropped on the Wii, and that was a roguelike that was adapted from like a Saturn era roguelike. Or like it was like an update to that, basically.
I've seen people making the argument, they're like, we need to go back and rehabilitate Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter.
Sure,
like an early roguelike that people were just like, this isn't how Breath of Fire is supposed to play. You're supposed to grind for 60 hours.
But now we know there's this whole other genre. I was a big fan of the Sheer and the Wanderer games. And that like when I bought that on DS, that was a full price DS game. But in the last decade or so, as the roguelike has spread and become the roguelite and gained different audiences, it's weird the ways in which the expectation is this is a $10 to $30 at the high level genre because of repetition or because of, it's because they've been independent games and we pay people less for independent games.
Yes.
Often
because the aesthetic we've created this notion, and also it's reflected in the amount of money that's spent on these games.
Totally.
In which you look at a Spelunky and there's a lot of cost in that, but you don't necessarily see it in the splashy like aesthetic.
The particle physics in Returnal are really
Returnal
good.
Looks expensive. It's like like look at this, like this it looks good.
You wish Death Stranding were a bullet hell.
That is exactly right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I thought the same thing as soon as I saw this character moving. I was like, damn.
She looks sad. It's raining everywhere. The techno guns don't seem to be getting the job done against the monsters.
Yep. That's there it is. I've already forgot the name of the game that we just said. That's how tired I am this morning, Rob. So I'm here with you. Death Stranding. That's what the game we were just talking about was.
Dude, Patrick, like this sounded so inexplicable. Like this entire, I almost created a conspiracy board to understand like the flow of decisions in this game.
You want to talk about parasites? You want to talk about the you can also attach parasites.
And also I have the worst. Like I'm like, this sounds horrible. I think I would hate this game, but I really need to see it to know. I really need to wonder how some of these decisions hit. Like, it seems like too much to keep track of. But what if you could master all those variables and trade-offs?
I'm in. Like, I'm all the way fucking in on this game.
I think some people are. I think this game is going to be hot or cold. I think it's going to click for a lot of people. I think.
Do you think the difficulty thing is going to be a thing where, like, I hate the Dark Souls difficulty discourse and the ways in which edgelords on the internet treat it like it's like that they conquered some great mountain that they carried across up the hill to become the greatest Dark Souls player.
And in this game, you are scaling a mountain, so quite literally.
But do you think that to some degree, I'm curious if to some degree that subculture of like I love it when a game is hard bullshit actually means that there will be that early adoption. People who say like get good about this game and who are really annoying, but also serve the purpose of dragging people past that initial hump of difficulty.
It's almost impossible for that to not become some measure of the discussion once you've introduced like we're telling a story and we're taking it seriously. Because then at that point you have introduced a variable that's going to attract people that may not necessarily like have come here for the mechanics alone. Right? You're saying like. And this game also drops, we're starting to turn a corner on like, a lot of games coming out for like a wide variety of people between NieR and Resident Evil, and the Ratchet and Clank trailer I just looked at looked fucking dope. Like that game looks great. So like there's stuff coming out, but people are going to want to try this because it's the new fancy PS5 game. And I think that is going to lead people making a rash decision. And this isn't Steam where it's like, okay, I'll pay the $70. I'll play it for an hour, and then I'll just refund it. And like that's just there are a lot of problems with Steam's refunding process and like how they treat the 2-hour marker. But at the end of the day, I like the fact that people can try a thing, and if there is, because making a demo is also resource intensive. It is not just like snap your fingers and make a demo. That's work, and like so I wish that people could. I don't know, or use PlayStation Now. Like, even if it's that you can't download it, like, just let people, like, access the thing for a small period of time to get a sense of whether, because playing it is going to be so much different than watching it. One, playing it's going to seem so fucking, or watching it's going to seem so fucking overwhelming, because anyone that's playing it, and you're watching that experience, like, they've internalized a bunch of the systems and the risk rewards that are happening, and you kind of need to, like, go through that, like hurdle yourself.
You don't think you think it's like too intense compared to something like Binding of Isaac or something in terms of making those decisions clear for your audience?
I mean, maybe I just mean you need to actually have like the feel for yourself of like, is this something like the the shooting is really good. And I think that's what's going to be the draw for a lot of people that initially go, the fuck, man? Like, who would want to play a game like this and keep, the thing is, so much with Returnal, like a lot of games that function this way, it's very easy to imagine how Returnal is just like a standard, like, third-person action game with a linear story and like a balance that is just meant to like take you across an 8 to 10 hour story. Like, you play this and you go, oh, you could just do, like, I'm not trying to wave a wand. I'm just saying, like, you've built a system and mechanics that, like, oh, this would feel really good if we stripped out the roguelike part and put it into, a quote unquote more traditional,
linear action
action game. Yeah. It would feel fantastic. But it makes sense that they put it into this because it really does fit like the design ethos of a studio that wants to make arcade games. And I think the roguelike is the modern arcade game in a lot of ways. And so I understand how they landed at this, but I do think there is going to be that tension with folks over this game. I think the shooting will get people like some people who are a little nervous about it because the shooting does feel like so good. And when you get about 3/4 through the first area, you get access to just this really sick sword that allows you to there are these moments where if you nail an alt fire like on a weak point of kind of a mini boss, it stuns them. And so it's like you like line up this like, let's say like it's like a grenade, lob that across the arena, boom, like hits them, knocks them out. You zoom on over, you slash that sword, and they like, I forget what they call it. They're like ooblets or something is like the little currency they have. And those just like
ooblets.
I know it can't be ooblets, but it's something like that. And I'm not going to look it up, but I'm just going to double down on ooblets.
Okay.
But it's these little yellow things that kind of sprinkle out, and they just go everywhere. And so like you've just gutted, this alien creature in the coolest possible way, and then money spills out that you're using to sort of like upgrade your character as you go along.
Is that sword a per run thing also? Or
no, the sword, there are permanent states, right?
Okay.
So there are a few things that are permanent. It borrows that from a number of now. You're not doing permanent stat upgrades, so this doesn't.
It's just verbs. It's just like it's like not a double jump, but like that. It's like getting.
Yes.
It's like unlocking something in a Metroid in terms of like now I can traverse differently.
When there are traversal things that like I haven't unlocked. So like I'll go through the first area, which I've done 15, 20 times now, and there is clearly an object that like I should be able to like jet across this to get to a bridge, and it just tantalizingly is there for you to look at, but you can't do anything with it. There are these bridges that like laser bridges that I cannot access and get across. So that's also where the game is introducing, like trying to incentivize you to not just skip to the second area and get frustrated because you haven't like gotten all of the like the passive upgrades you could get there. It's like as you like finish each biome, it seems like every time you finish a world, you're going to get access to some sort of permanent upgrade that gives you something new to do in the original area that will benefit like your character build out. Like, so for example, at the end of the first area, you get the sword, and the sword, you then quickly realize like, oh, there are these like masses of rock that are carrying a bunch of currency that I could not interact with before. And if I hit those with the sword, they dump like 50 of these. And like 50 is a lot. Like that's gonna like I only need a couple of those to get like a really good permanent upgrade or a really good like item drop. And so those are like you can start to see how the game stacks like a character build where at a certain point, like how a lot of these games function is like you'll have enough internalized sort of muscle memory over how the world plays that will then combine with, like the run where you've gone through, gotten like all of the items, you feel confident, you start getting overpowered, and then you bend the skill curve of the game. I presume that's essentially kind of like how this will go and how a lot of these games go. But yeah, it's not easy. And I think that's, that's appealing to a certain person like myself. Like I enjoy, I don't think it's overwhelmingly hard, but it's also a different, you can be, in the middle of a fight where you feel like you've got it under control with like 3 enemies that are pouncing around you, and then like a bullet hits you in the back because you weren't accounting for it, and there turns out there was a spray of 80 bullets coming from behind, and then it, that's starts your health over, or your meter over, and again that's all like easily achievable, but there are a lot of friction points. Like it's a game meant to kind of push you around a little bit, and so. But I will also say, like, I don't know that the narrative so far is like, damn, like, if they just could put a story mode, I could enjoy it. Also, from what I understand, like there is a narrative, like a narrative that concludes with an end credits, but like you're really meant to like keep playing to like kind of fill in all the gaps and things like that. So I don't know how satisfying like the A narrative even is, right?
Sure.
I think I get more the feeling that Returnal is playing in a similar place to Hades, in which by accident, like I think we are getting some of these designers trying to not rethink, but think about how narrative incorporates into roguelikes. Not that lots of roguelikes have done like either procedural narratives that are, emerging from player behavior, or have done that. Like this isn't new. I'm not trying to say that like, finally, like, the real studios are making roguelikes, but I think we are seeing a moment in which a lot of like creative energy is being put into the notion of like how can we get more people interested in a genre through story? And then like, what does that mean once they've arrived? And so I'll be curious to see where the discourse on Returnal goes when it hits like a mass audience that suddenly realize the kind of game that they're playing. But I have really enjoyed my time with it. I like the first area way more than the second area. I think the second area looks kind of boring. It tries, like the first area is kind of a Geiger jungle, and then the second area is like a more traditional alien desert, and it tries to give like a sense of like it's really open and big, but like it's not. Like it's still funneling you to like these very discrete areas. It just doesn't. It's
still like it
has more of like an Egyptian sort of like pyramid sort
space
of vibe.
Egypt,
space
sure.
Egypt, which like look, I liked Stargate. Like that's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
But
I haven't seen it in a few years, but I remember it was one of my favorite movies growing up, like full stop. So yeah.
So that's Returnal. So like I'm probably gonna keep playing it. I will say like it knocked off like, I was like really hustling through NieR. Like I know that Dia wants to do a spoiler cast, and
I'm ready.
Austin is sprinting through that game at a.
I could finish that game today. I could get all the endings today if I wanted to, but I have to wait because my flowers aren't done.
Oh, are you doing the pink? Let's take a break. I like Returnal. I think you should pay. I think people should be cautious, but it is.
Watch some gameplay.
I think it's excellent. Watch some gameplay. See if they'll do a demo.
The thing there's like the thing I want to anticipate the discourse I don't want to happen with this game is the sense that like, and this happens with roguelikes. This has happened with roguelikes before, where people say this is just a cheap way to like stretch the game content. This is just
or again the arcade analogy further. It's like it's just a quarter. It's like it's just a you can make less content and then just make people play it more.
But the thing that I want to emphasize is like that's what Housemarque does. Like this is not a studio finding a way to squeeze more blood from the stone. They make arcade games. They make games that are meant to be played and replayed over and over again. And it seems like they're experimenting with the formula in such a way that like I don't want to. I hope that there isn't a cynical turn in the way that we talk about this game off the bat. And I don't have a fucking horse in this race. I'm not a Housemarque person. In some ways, I'm ready to be a Housemarque person.
I think this is the game that will get a bunch of people to go back and like check out more. Like it'd be cool if Sony gets around to clean or Housemarque cleans up some of.
Does like a collection,
like Super Stardust is a. I don't even really like arcade shooters. Like I played a shitload of Stardust because like it was just so cool to look at.
It was like the inheritor of what I wanted from Geometry Wars in a way that like did more than that. So like I think that was the last Housemarque game that I like played. I like played some Resogun when I got Resogun.
I played it when the PS3 was out, and that was or PS4 was out, and then that was kind of it. But like this does make me very excited. And the last thing I'll say, and we'll go to a break, is that it makes me excited for the future of the studio, because it did seem like they were sort of at like a like an existential crisis of like, this is the games we make. What do we do in a world where that doesn't seem to fit as neatly, or our audience is becoming smaller and smaller to the point that like we also do like really splashy, technically excellent arcade shooters. And like there are people that want to play that, but like it was a shrinking number that wanted to pay for it.
Audience,
it was a boutique audience. And I think what Returnal shows, regardless of like whether I like, my guess is I'll stick with it and see it all the way through. But even if I didn't, like it is itself a successful experiment and reinvention of what they do, while also I think retaining all the really good shit that they are good at, and just makes me very excited to see, like if they can do this, who knows if they make another roguelike and get the itch on it, but like it just shows like they have, I think, kept a lot of their core DNA and then like put it in something else in a way that feels so very Housemarque, I mean, because again, like it doesn't really make sense that like these fucking tentacle aliens are shooting a square box of circles at me, and yet it makes all the sense in the world and looks great and is fine. So
yeah.
I think the people that play Returnal are really going to dig it, and then a bunch of people are going to bounce off it. But I think for the people that do get into it are going to have a blast.
All right, let's take a break. Let's come back to talk about another game where creatures are shooting square boxes of
we're in a bullet hell revival.
Colors. Yeah, exactly. We'll be right back. All right. Yeah, NieR. I have like 50 hours in NieR. Like overnight.
I can't do these side quests. Cado, don't do the side quests. That's what I'm saying. It's Cado, don't do the side quests.
I wasn't gonna.
I know.
I did them all. This is the last one. I've won
They
more.
Are. Oh boy.
They're a mix, but there's a lot that are just like. I genuinely think there are quests in here that are genuinely meant to make you furious at the people in this world, and also to like just to repeat content over and over and over.
Okay. Well, in the game,
the contractor is like should be a notorious quest in the realm of RPG quests because of what you need for this fucker and what you get
this
for
fucker.
It.
Always a good sign when you're calling the quest giver this fucker.
It's called Contract for a Contractor. He needs There's a field nearby. Where you start this game. And there's a guy who's like, there's some pigs, and he's like, I wish we could do something here. It would be cool to build something here. And I guess actually now that I think about it, this quest is not about building something there. His quest is like, yeah, my kitchen got fucked up. He needs a memory alloy, 10 titanium alloys, and 10 broken motors.
And then memory alloy, I looked up, it's like a real pain in the ass to get.
I know where to get it, Patrick. Do you know the big robots in the junk heap? The big walking? I don't know how far in this game
but then to do that,
but they don't always drop it. Sometimes they drop titanium alloy. You get the little yellow drop.
But you also need 10 titanium alloys to get that fucking knife.
To get the knife, you need 10 titanium alloys, are like a common upgrade material in weapons. There are lots of grind quests. Anyway, you do this quest for this dude, and he ends up paying you like 30,000 gold. You've probably made 120,000 gold getting the fucking materials.
Wow. I want to read. Wow. There is a I took a screenshot of this last night. Gift. Eventually in the game, in the second half of the game, there are multiple characters who are just like, oh, it's you. Like that motherfucker that'll just like do things for people, right? Like there's a character right here. There's this villager that I came and this is the village that you live in. You protect. It's not like you're going to Seafront, one of these other places where like maybe they've heard about you.
They've heard you. There's stories about you or something. You live villager. Here, motherfucker.
Hey, wait. You're that kid that does whatever people ask him to do, right? Well then, go find my boyfriend. Screenshot next that I took, accept quest. And I
yep. That's a fun. That's a
spoil. I guess I won't spoil what happens, but like that one doesn't end well.
No. I mean,
most of the quests don't end well.
There are 3 types of quests in this game, side quests in this game. And again, if you want no spoilers, please just jump ahead. We need to talk about the way this game works. So we're gonna do a bigger spoiler cast at some point. But one, there's the quest that is like, go find my blank. And then that branches out into 2 types of quests, which is either you don't want to find your blank. That's bad news. I found your blank. And that doesn't just mean dead. There's other outcomes that are not good outcomes there.
And the game does give you the outlet to sometimes lie. I've never done the lie.
Because of the way unlocking additional endings via New Game Plus works, I've now done a lie once.
Ooh.
Not for side quests. There's a main quest thing where you can lie.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, like a binary choice, sure.
Yeah, I don't know if did you do the big fight in Seafront, which is actually one of the new things in this game?
I was watching, I set up remote play on my iPad and then had the Oscars on the TV, and it was just like doing NieR side quests.
Yeah. I did that with some podcasts the other day. It's like if I want to just vibe, I can totally do that in this game, which is nice.
It's just it's to be one thing. It was just like hey, here are the grind quests. It's like no, it's like all side quests should just be called grind quests. Like
most of them have some degree of grind, or they're either fetch quests or grindy. I'd say a couple of them have like some unique mechanic, but most of them are like a mix of this is just an excuse for you to go grind crafting or like forge materials, or here is a sad story beat. Sometimes you go like, I'm gonna go find this person, you can't find them, and then there's a whole other genre of quest. You come back and the person wasn't lost to begin with. That's another genre of quest. Go find my blank. Oh, my blank was always here. And the third type of quest is like, surprisingly happy thing happens. That's nice. And that's it. Like those are the types, and that's it. And that's not I don't think that's a problem. I say that because I've done all of these quests, but I think this is a game that is absolutely interested in repetition, in mundanity, in like those quests feel like this is what the world is. I was talking to my friend Jackson from Abnormal Mapping the other day, and they were saying like the nice thing about those quests is this is what it means to repair a kitchen in this world. It means going into this fucking dungeon and struggling until you get the supplies you need. Whether or not you want to do that, it's up to you. Right. But like, it does say something about the state of this weird post-apocalypse, which is everything is a fucking grind. Everything is difficult to do. And I also think that given that this game is about like playing through multiple times, getting different perspectives, multiple endings, it's doing something with repetition. It's not something that I think most people want to do.
I was going to say that's like a very generous interpretation of like the side quest narrative.
I don't think you can make a quest like Contract for a Contractor and not know what the fuck you're doing, because it is the most, and again, especially in a game that's about whether or not repetition can save you, whether or not seeing things through a different perspective, having another opportunity to blah, 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 blah. Like that is what this game is doing. So I do think that there is that is like happening here. That doesn't mean I think that most people would, I still think people should find a skip guide. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do think people should be like, which quests here? It's like, I almost want to list out the quests that I think are narratively interesting.
I feel like there needs to be like the two, the two images that we got that were like the NieR like side quest guide, I don't think they were good enough. We need an updated one that is like, here are the couple you should do for money, and then here are the couple you should do for like there's some good lines or a story beat, and then the rest are if you just happen to have the material, fine, go do them. You know, there are ones that I have done that just end with me getting 30K. And I've just done them because like, well, okay, I'm going between those areas anyway.
Like I already have, right. I already have this. Yeah, I'm already going to that place, whatever.
Oh, okay, fine. I'll buy 4 extra logs and then I can like finish this quest.
Totally. And that's also a nice thing to know is like some of them you can just go buy the material. And by the time you get to the midpoint of the game, basically you have some fast travel-y solutions that will help you get places pretty quick and take care of the shopping
until the fast travel character gets caught up in a quest and then they just don't exist for a little while.
Okay, so you did do the seafront thing. That's the thing I'm talking about.
Oh, that one? Oh, yeah. Fight. That's great. That's
new. That fight wasn't in the original NieR.
Oh, really?
That whole side quest with the shipwreck is not there at all in the original NieR.
Is that content that they put back in?
I think that's cut content. I think that's Mermaid is the name of that. If like in the
that's a really cool fight.
That whole sequence is good, and you've only done it once, right?
Yes.
So I've gone through this. I've like in my New Game Plus.
Yeah.
Now, which means without getting into what this means, there's additional perspectives that you get when you're playing through in the New Game Plus, which is just like NieR Automata. And that additional perspective is interesting, is what I would say. It's not unpredictable by any means, but it's interesting.
You did not answer if it's a spoiler. If you do New Game Plus, can you like go back and do some of the quests that you missed the first time around, or is this all
cannot, Patrick?
Okay, all right. No, I figured that wasn't the case.
Yeah. Which is honestly good because I don't want to replay that part of the game.
No,
anyway.
Me either. Yeah.
The game is divided into 2 halves, and the second half gives you 2 new weapon slots. Also, there's like additional besides like you start with just like a one-handed sword, you eventually unlock a 2-handed sword and a spear. We talked about this last week, but I'm like finally at the point where I'm like, I like all these weapon types now. I started that second half of the game and I was like, I don't know that I really want to fuck around with anything but the sword that I started with, like that type. And I was like, let me try the spear. And for like a day, I played with just the spear. Like, the spear is clearly the best weapon. This is the only thing I would ever use is this spear. And then I got like a 2-handed sword, like super upgraded, so it was doing wild damage. And I was like, let me try this. And I finished playing, like, I basically finished my first run with that. And I was like, this is clearly the best weapon. No one should ever play with anything except this claymore. And now I'm back around to be like, all of these have their purposes. And I think all of the combos here are fun to do. So yeah, I have done all of the quests in this game except for Life in the Desert, as I think the name of the quest. I think that's what it's called. There is a town in this game in a desert. Life in the Sands is what it's called. That town is called Facade. Mm-hmm. It's a cool town. I like the people of Facade quite a bit.
Not fun to navigate.
No. You can. There's an easy way to do it, but I don't like doing it. There's like an interior fast travel there, and I don't like to do it because I feel like it's wasting my time. I'd rather just jump there.
It's quote unquote fast travel, but then it's just we will quickly take you to a place in terms of you pressing buttons, but you will have to watch a minute and a half of cutscenes to get to being on a boat.
So there's a person in Facade near the mailbox, who is like, hey, I really want to have a garden here. Can you bring me some pink moonflower seeds?
Yes.
And I go, yeah, of course I can.
There'll be some merchant.
I'll just go
pay
buy
out
you
the
some
butt for some
pink
seeds.
Yeah, exactly. I'll pay more than they're worth because that's how the merchants work.
I looked up this quest when I was putting in my head. I was trying to figure out the hierarchy of which ones I was going to even bother with, and this one went nope, not.
Well, let me tell you. I've done every other quest, and so now this one has a little extra weight behind it because I'm not going to get 100% in this game. There are achievements I'm not going to get. There are, I know that, but I
difficulty ones,
I'm not going to upgrade all the weapons, right? Like that. I'm not going to grind like that. I've upgraded a bunch of them for fun and like to read their stories. I think that's a fun part of this game. Each weapon has like a little short, like micro fiction attached to it that you unlock as you upgrade it. You get like an additional little beat basically each time. And that's fun. I'm happy to have done the ones I did, but I'm not going to do everything. But at this point, one side quest away, I may as well get 100% side quest completion.
Sure.
To get a pink moonflower.
Tell us, because I know, and I want you to say it. I want the words to come out of your mouth.
So the way it works is there are three. You can buy 3 types of moonflower seeds.
Sure can.
Red, gold, and blue.
Mm-hmm.
None of those are pink.
Austin, I was going to say, like, that is, you're missing a color.
It turns out I'm missing a few colors, Patrick. You need to cultivate these flowers. And I should say, I like the gardening system in this game. I'm a fan of the gardening system in this game. You put down some rice, you put down some wheat, you put down some watermelon. Sometimes there's a side quest. Your little sister says, "Oh, I want to cook for you. Give me a watermelon, a pumpkin, and an eggplant or something." And you're like, "That sounds bad, but okay, I'll grow those for you." And here's the thing: the way that the gardening works in this game is it takes a real amount of time for these things to grow. It takes like 10 hours or something for a pumpkin to grow. You plant a pumpkin, 10 hours later, it's there. You go, okay, maybe you go and you water it once or twice.
10 hours
and you
in game.
Real time.
Well, real time, but
human time.
But does the game have to be open or can you shut it off and come back in 10 hours?
You can go for a walk.
It's
you
clock
can go
based,
make your own pumpkin watermelon pie if you want to.
Right.
That's also available to you if you want to.
What the watermelon? The watermelon would just melt.
Listen,
right?
It is a recurring bit that the sister is not particularly good at cooking. So,
she's sick, and you need to indulge.
Right, what are you going to do? Say no to your sick sister? She wants to bake for you.
Just fucking.
I mean, one time she does trick you into eating food, which is very funny. Because of that, because of that system, everything that takes place with the gardening takes a long time,
right?
Including trying to find these seeds, because to get the pink seeds, you need to first get indigo seeds. To get indigo seeds, you mix gold and blue moonflower seeds. And I don't mean that you put them together on the same plot of land. No. I mean that you put them next to each other and wait for them to bloom. Right. Except that it's not a 100% chance. They might not hybridize.
I played Animal Crossing.
That's so good.
Totally. It's Animal Crossing.
But Austin, that's just a part of the narrative where it's like sometimes you do a thing and like it doesn't always work out.
The actual thing, the thing that's so funny about when this game came out in 2010, there are 2 ways you could do this quest, which is one is the hybridization, which let me just set this up. It's you Put those flowers next to each other. You hope that you get the 1 in, or like the 2 in 10 chance or whatever, 1 in 5 chance.
Sorry, hold on. How long passes before you know whether you got the good die roll?
I think it's 4 hours. Because I will go into the game, set it up in the morning, then check in the afternoon to see as they bloom. Well, this is the thing. It's actually, it's more complex than that at this point because there are tells if they're hybridizing that I've now learned. A funny thing is, and I'll say this part of it now, in 2010, no one did it this way. Everyone just fucked with system clocks, which is also a NieR-like solution. Right. This is also a perfectly Yoko Taro acceptable way to do this in my mind, is to go into the settings and fuck around. That's big NieR energy, in my opinion. But back then, they were doing them in plots because they were trying to roll as many dice as possible. So they would, for instance, say, okay, first, before I make the pink ones, I need the indigo one, which is gold and blue. So I'd make 3 rows of like blue, gold, blue, then gold, blue, gold, and that way I'm getting maximum hybridization opportunities, basically, right? And then they would jump their clock ahead.
Welcome to my.
But first, I need to talk to you about parallel dimensions. So you jump ahead by 4 hours, see if they were there. If they were, you jump ahead by 48 hours because you don't need the flowers, which grow in a day. You need the seeds, which you get when the flowers wilt and die. And you get more than 1 per dead flower. You get, like, depending on if you fertilized or not, you get between 3 and 6 is what I would say. I of course, am fertilizing with the bounty fertilizer to get maximum seed cultivation here. So you have to do all that just to get the indigo one. Then you have to mix the indigo one with red to try to get a pink one. It's ridiculous, but the thing that's interesting now is with this one, you can't fuck with your clock because it's connected to the internet, and even if you turn it off, it's still using internet time somehow. I think it's like, no, I know what the fucking time is, asshole. Don't try that shit with me. But you can change your time zone, and it doesn't know how to react to that. So you can jump ahead via time zone by about a day. I haven't done that yet. I don't think I'm going to need to. Because instead of doing that big bulk kind of factory-like blue, gold, blue setup, I am doing it in a much more, I would say, a much more organic way. Okay. I'm doing it in a kind of return to the earth, pastoral, this is the way our great grandparents used to live. Where you just kind of see what pops up and you kind of play it. It's almost like playing jazz.
Is that what happened in the past of NieR?
Awesome.
Jazz. Yeah, basically.
I think you might want to reconsider your.
No, that's right. So at this point, what's happened is I got a bunch of indigo ones. Like I got 3 indigo flowers popped up finally for me yesterday. And I was like, the guides all say wait for those to die, then take the seeds from those and do the garden grid again. But fuck that. They're there now. Right. I could hybridize with them now while they're alive. So I just harvested everything else around them really quick, dropped in the red ones, and I got 2 pink flowers coming, baby. They're right there right now. I just have to wait for them to die and get those seeds.
How many seeds do you get per drop?
So from the indigo ones that died today, and I finally was able to harvest, I got from 3 of them, I got 15 seeds.
Oh, then you're good.
I got 5, 5, 6. Yeah. But what if the fertilizer doesn't kick in the way I need it to? There's a world in which I come out with 9 seeds.
Oh, yeah.
At which point I just plant a seed and wait for it to die.
Right.
Yeah. I need to emphasize the end of the game. I could get the new ending E in this game, which is also new for this release today if I wanted to. I'm like at the fucking door to.
You're just waiting to walk through.
Exactly. I'm not at the point of no return, but I'm at the point where did you?
Oh no, I think you're pretty far past the point of no return, Austin.
I think there are additional points of no return.
I need to get I want to get a physical trophy for Austin as a result of.
I should only get that if I cultivate a lunar tier, which is the one above this, which is if I then cultivate peach and pink together, there's a 2% chance that it will come out as a white flower. And if I do that, I deserve a real flower.
Is that just a trophy? Is to like
that's just a trophy, no quest. That's just a trophy in the game, and I deserve a physical trophy if I do that. If I get the white lunar tier, which is like has narrative significance, it shows up a lot throughout.
You get Yoko Taro's helmet.
I get the and I live in there now. Oh, now that I know what the deal with that helmet is, It's a different. I have a different relationship with that helmet, with that mask that I did before. I was like, oh, goofy dude with the helmet. I hear it's connected to a character.
Hang on, it's been a minute. How many of these pink seeds do you need to get for this fucker?
10. So there's
you
a
got 9 coming in.
Huh?
You got 9 coming in right now?
I got between.
Oh, that's right.
Between question mark and 12. So the only gauge I have is what I got from my indigo flowers, where I planted 3 of them and I got 5, 5, 6 seeds from each of 5 from 5 and 6. I don't know what the range is, Rob. Is the range 4 to 6? My gut says it's 4 to 6. So 2 might just not do it for me. In which case I plant them. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. It just means I don't beat this game until the end of the week instead of beating it like sooner. So anyway, this is where I'm at in a game I really like. I actually have like real thoughts about this game around what it's doing with like the history of horror games and the ways in which it's talking about like monstrousness and etc. Like I think that there's a lot actually to like about this game. I think I like Automata more. I'm gonna save all this for like when we get around to a true spoiler cast, but like
I also wonder if it's a case of what was your first NieR.
Yes. It is partially that, but I also think it's that I like broken and terrible people more than I like found family stories. And I like found family stories, which means I'm really enjoying myself here. This is a game about like outsiders finding each other, people who are considered monsters, you know, insisting on and recognizing their own humanity. It's like deeply beautiful, the relationships that you build in this game with the main cast of characters. Everyone fucking rules. I love this crew a lot, but none of them are like shitty little pricks like 9S. None of them deserve to be punched in the face. I want to protect them and I love them. And that means that I'm just like, I think that the Automata gets to a certain place a little quicker. I think that this game is very much doing the like traditional RPG vibe of like, I think we said this last time, like, here's the ocean city, here's the desert city, you know, here's the cliff city, what's the story here, and you go to each place.
Here's the forest city that has a text adventure, you know, all the stuff that's in RPGs.
And that's where the game is at its best, is like when it's fucking around with like, suddenly you're in a text adventure, suddenly you're in the Resident Evil mansion, doing shit that is like
suddenly you're like, well, if a dog burst through the windows here, I guess that would make sense.
It would make perfect sense. That mansion's maybe the coolest place in that whole game because there's 2 different weird dungeons in that game or in that place.
That could not be more different from one another, and
100%.
Yet they both play with the form in like. You know what? I don't want to spoil the second
other
one.
Yes,
but I almost like I finished that and was like, yo, if just the whole game was like this, I think I actually enjoy. How do I say? Perspective. I enjoyed the game played that way to such a degree that I almost like. I
saw someone else call that the best dungeon in the game. So I think that your perspective there, is shared by other people. I really think this game is doing something with the history of games and specifically the history of horror games. In terms of like, again, this is a game about monstrousness. This is a game about like encountering the other and the self and recognizing that like what is a monster. This is a game that very much is in conversation with like the most classic discourse of all, playing Doom and being like, I wish you could talk to the monsters. And I don't think that this game has like the simple answer to that, which is like, this is not the game where you talk to the monsters, right? This is the game where again you recognize that monstrousness is a construct, that your friends are actually thought of as monsters, that you in many ways are thought of as a monster, and like, what do you do with that? And I love that stuff. That stuff has been really good. So I don't know, we'll get into specifics and details when we get to a spoiler cast, but that's my NieR update. My hope is to have beaten this game completely by Friday's episode. We'll see how the flowers go, I guess. I am a slave to the garden. You know, I can't move forward until these flowers bloom and die, and I collect their seeds and give them to this person in the desert town of Facade.
Ding.
What's that? Would you say ding?
Ding. That's your trophy.
Oh, that's my trophy. For getting all the side quests. Correct. Yeah. I want to shout out another game really quick that I did play that is really interesting. I actually played two other things, but the first is InkSlinger. You can go get this now on Steam. My guess is it's also on itch. It's $5. It is a narrative typing game. I would say that this is in the lineage with like Twine games, right? It is a short story about a person whose job it is. You live in this sort of like industrial, like steampunk is such a dirty word in so many ways because it tends to mean it tends to include a degree of distance from the political because of the ways in which steampunk is deployed without any sort of criticality to the visuals it's using. Like there's lots of like, I love Victorian England bullshit.
Well, and we talking like, I mean, the vibe I got is more Dickensian England than like strictly steampunk in some ways, where it's like it's
on InkSlinger or on
InkSlinger.
Yeah, I think that's probably more right. Dickensian England is actually
because it's not like ooh the technology. It's more like ooh the trades and urbanization and alienation.
There is some ooh the techno. Right? Yeah, I think that you're right about like what it's doing. That's 100% right. It is about the alienation. It is about the how the industrialization is shaping stuff. The bits that are like. There are some bits that vibe into that more fantasy space and that more like. You know, I think it's if it has to be touched by steampunk, think of it in that industrial fantasy Dishonored space more than, you know, you're kind of like
tick and talk like a clock,
right? Exactly. The best video that was released last year was that last year. Did those twins come out
2 years ago?
They dropped. Who could say?
All I know is they buried steampunk.
Thank God. So you play as an InkSlinger who is someone who lives in a big city and who writes letters for people. They come in and they say, I'm feeling like this. And then you, as the player, have a choice of words to pick, to type, that will then generate a letter for you, for them, basically. So they'll come in, like one of the first ones is a mother who comes in and says, my son hasn't spoken to me in a long time. And I know he's off with his fiance or his wife or whatever. And you have to kind of read between the lines and decide, are you writing a concerned letter? Are you writing a bitter letter? You're writing it kind of paragraph by paragraph by choosing one word to summarize the tone that you're making. It seems like there are correct answers and incorrect answers in a sense, but what there really is there are 4 endings in the game that you can unlock through each play. Rod, did you play through this also?
No, I just edited Lewis Gordon's take on it.
Okay,
for us.
Perfect. And so there is this kind of interesting sense of interpretation because you're trying to get at what the person wants, but also get at what they really want, what they really mean. Most of the times it's pretty clear. The game kind of increases in quote unquote difficulty, but a really ambiguity over the course of its like 40 to 60 minute length. I think my first playthrough was like 40 or 45 minutes, something like that. And as this is going on, you're also getting these kind of flashbacks to who your character was before she was an InkSlinger, back when she had she was still an InkSlinger. She was just not working at like a neighborhood sling shop. I don't know what they're actually called. Word shops, apparently. You were as an InkSlinger in Brasney's renowned word shop. The story that unfolds is about your character, her history, a very traumatic history, I should say, that like this game starts with a warning for a content warning for violence. It should also it should have a content warning for sexual violence specifically. Material that I think is handled okay, but I really think that it's not just fraught, but like scary in its depiction in a way that's worth saying, right? I don't mean like it doesn't, it's edgy and it doesn't retreat from the danger. Like I genuinely just mean that I think that the sequences in which this character is talking about sexual violence is genuinely difficult, even though they're brief. So know that going into it. And I think the entire presentation on this thing is just through the roof. Like the sense of hitting the keys and typing things and seeing these letters, or the kind of letters you're writing come together, hitting backspace as like bits of each paragraph delete, and then, you know, new words show up as you change to a different thing. There's a couple really interesting, like, gimmicky, you know, letters that you're writing that are fun. And I don't know, I think it's a really interesting thing. It's like, it's a game that has 3 reviews on Steam right now, and it probably should have more than that. Even if I don't know that it's fully stuck the landing for me. I only have one ending, so I need to go back through and maybe see a little bit more. I'm curious, what was Lewis Gordon's feeling on it, Rob?
Oh, like really similar to yours, like really effective world building in a short period of time.
Yeah, the fact that I played this game for 40 minutes, but like could tell you what the political situation is, what the ways in which the world is changing, what the guild structure in this place is. It's really effective at doing that, totally.
And yeah, and the other part was like when the game starts pulling out the stops, I think some of what you were alluding to, it's real effective. It's real scary. It's real intense. It's well executed. But like, so like you have the like cozy, intimately voyeuristic relationship of the people you're writing the letters for. But then also as you start like getting into, here's this is actually about, here's where your character is at. The game finds other gears, really, really well.
That's totally right. And it's just like, it's a great little experiment in form that I think is probably worth people's time.
One thing to call out, because this is something Lewis did notice. A ton of the art is sourced from the Danish National Archive. They have a really slick website of like all their paintings that are in their collections. And so a lot of that stuff's just open source. So a lot of like the art you find in this game, like some of the character portraits, some of the scenes are just being sourced from contemporary painter. Well, not obviously it's a fictional world, but you know what I mean, like that that era. And so that was also kind of a cool thing, which was kind of a neat way to leverage and interpret like actual art from, you know, this period.
Definitely. It looks fantastic. Like it is like very striking because of the ways in which it's evoking analog technologies of paper and ink, you know, clocks ticking. The sound design in this game is actually really, really good. There's a little bit of voice acting that I think really marks certain parts of the game and makes them stand out in terms of where the narrative beats are coming from. It's worth, again, I think it's worth your $5 if you're interested in this sort of narrative game, because otherwise this is like the sort of thing I'm like, it deserves not to fall that far, you know, through the cracks, because I think there is an audience for something like this. The other thing I just want to hit briefly, because it's only a demo, is there was the Naraka this weekend, and there's a bunch of demos from that I'm still like working through. But the one that I think some people are curious about is Lake, that game where you go to your small town in Oregon home and take over your mailman dad's postal route and step into those shoes for a couple weeks. And I played through the first 2.5 days of that demo, and I'm so curious what I'm enjoying it, so I should just say that up front.
Okay, because that all felt like a wind up to the other shoe coming down.
I think it's a little rough right now. It's a demo. I think that like the controls could be tightened up, and like there's a couple like weird animations. But I really think that the conversations I've seen about this game don't necessarily know what it is, because I think we're all too cynical for what it is. I think most people think it's either twee Life is Strange youth comedy or Twin Peaks.
Okay,
serial killer.
My vibe was always more. Do you remember like mid-90s Sundance films that was all like, let's go to small town and like meet the most colorful cast of characters you ever met?
Sure. It's more there. I would say even it's. I mean, I think that's exactly right in the sense of the things you're describing, Rob, are the blueprint for the Lifetime original movie.
So wait, is it like
right?
Is it like Firewatch?
No.
Okay.
Not at all like Firewatch. Firewatch wants to be prestige storytelling, drawing on conspiracy stories that then develop. It is
the way that turn happens is like, oh, it was, we thought.
I don't think a turn happens in this game.
Tonally, is it like The Rookie, where the local dad who used to be a pitcher, his arm has gotten super strong and he brings the town together around.
I think I genuinely think that it is this is the model is. This game opens with your character being a software tester in the 1980s in a big city. And for 2 weeks, she gets to leave all that behind to go home to where she grew up in a small town in Oregon.
Oh shit, that is a Lifetime.
This is what I'm saying, Hallmark. Rob. I'm not, 100%. Like, that is the pitch of the game, but I haven't seen anyone talk about it in those terms. And it's genuinely that. It's genuinely like going around town, meeting old friends who have gotten married and their last names have changed. And you're like, oh my God, you're an Evans now? That's weird. And like, completely missing the mark on your dialogue choices and coming across like an asshole like a big city asshole by mistake and being told that you've changed, and then meeting someone else new in town and kind of flirting with them, but like, are they liked by your old friends in town? Who could say? And then this old cat lady gets on your nerves and you're like, I'm sorry. And then the next day her cat's sick, so you drive the cat to the bait shop because the guy who runs the bait shop knows how animals work and can kind of help out a little bit. Not really a veterinarian, but he knows what's going on. And like, that's the vibe. It's just that. And like, meanwhile, your boss from work is calling you and is like, can I send you out a build? Because I really need some feedback on this new, or maybe it's not a build. It might be like a design document or something like that for this piece of software. Because I really would love for you to send this back. And you're like, well, I'm on vacation, but send it through anyway. And it's like, that's what it's doing. It's doing the thing of like, I am so sure there is a version of this game where you decide at the end to settle down, and a version where you're like, no, I miss my real home, my fast-paced life back in the big city. And there's definitely versions where I'm guessing you end up settling down with one or two, not one or two per run. Probably. Listen, I don't know what Lake's position is on long-term poly relationships.
Small communities, fine line between polycule and like oppressive cult regime.
No, I don't think that the infrastructure is here for the oppressive cult regime. I think the infrastructure is here for what if I date both the lumberjack and the cute video store girl. I think that infrastructure works. They're far away from each other. I don't think there'd be I don't know that they would get along necessarily. Maybe they'd both be cool with it, but wouldn't necessarily want to be in the same relationship with me at the same time. In any case, it's very quaint and very like, it's just like, cute in a way that is, I don't think, particularly well represented in the range of games, even in the range of narrative games. That's the thing, right? Is that like, I don't know, we should be more able to point to the Lifetime original movie model of like rom-com in this world of video games. We just like can't. There are plenty of romance games inside of the adventure and visual novel spaces. That is a well-developed, well-loved space. But those have their own histories of genre trope, of structure, of all of that stuff, of writing style. Whereas this feels like it's coming at that, or orthogonally in terms of what its influences and inspirations are in a way that I think is kind of cool. So that's Lake. I don't know. I don't know if it'll find an audience. Like I left it being like, I think there is an audience here, but I don't know if it'll find it. And I hope it does, but we'll see. Also, I could be wrong. I could be 2 days away in this game from a serial killer showing up, but it doesn't strike me as that sort of game. I mostly think what's coming in two in character days is like my character having a breakdown about like needing to get work done, but feeling like that's betraying the fact that this is a vacation,
Right.
So
it
would be pretty amazing though if it went in a so dark the night direction.
It would be so fucking funny, dude. I feel like the mechanics don't support it enough. Like moving around the world is such that I can't imagine there being tension in this game. Do you know what I mean? But if suddenly there was like a run button or a like peek through the windows as something terrible happens in the house where you're delivering mail and you hear a scream and you're like, what's going on in there? That would be fantastic. I would also enjoy that. But I think that would be betraying the people who just want, their like you said, like that kind of 90s indie romance drama, go back home story, which again I think is underrepresented in the medium. So
games deserve a Doc Hollywood.
They simply do. That's what I've been up to. Anyone else have anything? I know, Cado, you've been playing something that we should probably shout out at least real quick.
I spent most of my Sunday playing this beta for a game called Naraka Bladepoint, which is...
Bladepoint.
Yeah. A Battle Royale game that is in third person, and you have the Sekiro grappling hook in it. You're a martial artist. You have different, a fair amount of ranged weapons that all are really bad, and you should never use them because this is definitely a melee game. Well, I mean, they have their purposes, right? Like, they're good for as people close distances, which you can close really quick because you have that grappling hook. It's also class based. Like there are different hero characters. They have different abilities. One kind of low cooldown ability, and one ultimate that charges over the course of the match. And it has a really interesting. So it's like mostly melee combat. You do have a few other ranged weapons, but it's got this kind of like not weapon triangle, but combat choice triangle, where it's like you have normal attacks that deal normal damage, and those will get stunned out by like I forget exactly I think they call it like a focus attack. But if you get but there's also like a block counter that counters focus attacks only. And the fucked up thing is that when you get when someone counters your focus attack, you drop that weapon.
Ooh.
There's also like there's three inventories in this game. There's your items, which is like your heals and like armor re-ups, and grappling hooks, which are an item that you use up. So like you can't just be whipping around willy-nilly.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
There is a weapon loadout, which is like your 2 equipped weapons, and then like a small. You start with just 1 slot, and you have to find upgrades that you can get up to like 4 slots of like backup weapons, which is important because of that countering thing where you fucking drop your weapon. And another one called Soul Jades, I believe, is the name, which are like these items that just give you passive boosts to things. So like some of them are like plus 7 melee resistance, and you can like stack those. Some of them do wild things to like the weapons you're using. There's 3 main melee weapons. There's a longsword, which is kind of the Chinese style blade, and a katana, and then a great sword that kind of looks and plays like almost the great sword in Monster Hunter.
In Monster Hunter, yeah, sure.
And it was really fun just because this like little, I feel like melee combat that in like this kind of battle royale setting doesn't often work. Like most, there's a reason why most battle royale
the encounters are supposed to be like just structured differently. I'm watching a bunch of gameplay for this now, and it's like, like there are like sequences where you're going to spend 30 seconds like interacting 1v1 with somebody, or you also be in a crowd of 15 people where someone is casting a flame magic spell and a healing spell, and you're all fighting in the middle of.
So that's
all of that. Hey,
I think that
it's interesting.
I think a lot of that is actually the trios mode, which I didn't really touch, but I found the singles, like the solo mode, actually really interesting because a lot of the density, like they tuned the density such that it's actually really rare to get into like a giant skirmish like that. At most, I feel like there were 4 people, and like what people tend to do is like you see 2 people fighting, and then you try to like third person, like be the third person kind of sniping with your long range weapon. But the long range weapons are actually pretty hard to hit with because they're like a bow, a really shitty pistol. Everything has nothing's hit scan. Everything has traveled like time. So you have to lead people, and they're moving around pretty quickly. Like as far as movement goes, you can move really quickly, you can run really quickly, you have a double jump, you have wall runs, you have the grapple hooks that you can use, you can grapple onto people. It's huge, like the actual like melee movement is kind of wild. You can attack. One of my favorite things to fucking do in this is like jump up and grapple past someone, and as I pass them, throw an attack out, because you can attack midair, and it's sick as fuck. But like the kind of it's just really great because I feel like the push and pull of like when you throw out one of your focus attacks, which deal a lot of damage, but there's a tell, basically like you glow blue when that's about to come out, and that's when the other person knows, okay, now I can throw a counter. And then the counters are really fucking punishing, because not only do you lose your weapon, it drops on the ground, they also get riposte, basically, which deals a shit ton of damage.
Ooh,
and so it's like you have to be really, really careful about when you're throwing those out, and some of them are just like tossed into a combo. Like it's like if you click 3 times if you hit 3 times with your melee, the third one's gonna be one of those. So if you throw one of those without having them in a stun lock by actually being in the combo, like you can get countered. They've tuned the health and damage really well, those to where like it feels like there's a real back and forth here, right? This isn't the type of BR where like if you get spotted out, you're never gonna get one shot from range, and you're also never gonna get one shot if someone sneaks up and does like a super move on you, right? It's kind of like these extended like it feels like as close as you could probably get to Sekiro without being Sekiro. There's also clashes, like if you both attack at the same, like so I was using mouse and keyboard, your left click does a horizontal attack, series of attacks, and your right click does vertical. And so if you both hit vertical at the same time, you clash, right? Like, and so there's a lot of like, all right, which one am I gonna throw out? Am I close enough to hit this? Like, you kind of want to be the first one to hit, but the dodge is like actually pretty forgiving. So like the tension there of like who gets the first hit in, and also who you're fighting, because the abilities are pretty disparate. My favorite person, I forgot their name, but their abilities were basically like stealth based. I had like a teleport that would just teleport me in a direction, like almost as far as like a grappling hook could take me, and one that just made me go invisible, which meant if I stood still, no one could see me, but if I moved, there was like a very light outline, which was kind of difficult to track. But even then, I was still getting caught out by some of these other ones. There's one that's pretty powerful that I think is shown in the trailer, where it's like for 5 seconds you have to kind of channel this thing. It's uninterruptible, but people can still damage you. But at the end of those 5 seconds, anyone in your AoE is stunned for 5 seconds, which is like really big. It seems like really useful in like a trios mode where like you can have 2 people kind of, you know, protecting your body so you don't get like burst down necessarily. But even in singles mode, it was like very much like, oh, they're at like full health. There's no way I can finish my combo and actually kill them before this thing pops. So I have to figure out the best way to get out of their AoE. And it's just like, I don't know, everything about it, like it feels like really well thought out, the kind of way this melee combat works and the different options you have for engaging in, how you can get in and out of fights. The chase feels really good. Like it's like that, you know, like that classic martial arts thing of like 2 people running like parallel to each other before one of them dives in for the first attack. Like there's a lot of that happening. And I like blinked and had played 5 hours of it on Sunday. The other thing is weapon durability is kind of how they make. So, you know, normally in like a game, you have like your kind of shittier weapons you find at first, and then there's like better weapons, and usually that amounts to damage in most of these games, in most battle royales. But in this one, it's durability. Basically, every time you hit a person with a weapon, the durability goes down by 1. And so like white weapons start with 20 durability. 20 hits after, you have to stop and like you do like a
whetstone it.
Yeah,
basically?
Exactly. Or if it's a ranged weapon, it's a similar thing, but you're basically reload. It's like every shot takes that, whether or not you hit doesn't matter for the ranged weapons. For melee weapons, it's like when you actually hit someone, the durability goes down. And then like that number goes up until you get to like you're at 80 hits before you have to restone it with like the highest tier. I think right now, it seemed like people were either too scared to go into the like high, there's like, I dropped spicy a lot, but this thing has, instead of dropping from like a thing in the sky, you pick a spawn point on a map, like, and you can see where everyone else is.
Like, God, what's the other one that you do that with?
Yeah, there's
the snow one, the ice one,
whatever
that one's called. It's fine. Who
the X Games
anymore?
one?
The what?
The X Games one?
Yes, the X Games one. Yeah.
We played it on Save Point that one time.
Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah.
That one. You pick a spot, you can
Ring of Eternity.
Ring of
That's not
Fire.
right.
Nope.
That might be right. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
So you can see where people are dropping, and there's like marked zones that are like high loot areas, and it felt a little bit like those were
Elysium. Ring of Elysium. Ring of Elysium.
Thank you. It seems like those areas are really chocked full, and people are just too scared to actually drop there, because like I felt super kidded if I dropped there, and like there were only ever like one or two other people, and I would win those fights easy or whatever. Like, I don't know. I think like maybe as more people like, because this was just like an open beta they did just this weekend.
It was very successful though. I just read it did 120,000 concurrents.
Nice.
So
damn.
That's pretty good.
So once it actually drops, I feel like that we'll see where that sort of balancing lands. Right now, it felt a little bit like it was very easy to get fully kitted. But then the fights were really fun, so that didn't really matter as much.
Also, it was a beta, right? So like all the balance stuff
that's
is
kind of the point, right? I'm really excited for it to actually come back out. It does need a little bit of like there's some optimization things that obviously it feels like it still needs. It like gave me a warning when I had first installed. It's like, hey, we see you've installed this game on a hard drive, a disk drive. Please install us on an SSD. The game will run much better. And I was like, okay, let's see what it does. And like I went in, I did some tutorial stuff, and there were parts where it's like, oh, this got really framey in some bits for some reason. I swapped it to an SSD, and all of that was kind of cleared up. There were still a few moments when like, if there were like 5 people throwing stuff out, it started to get a little framey. But apart from that, I never saw any like really horrible issues. So it's like pretty there. But yeah, I just really enjoyed. Oh, also the like the fucking wall is great. So if you in the trailer, I think they start with this. They look up into the sky, and like the dead center of the map in the sky is just a giant fuck off like snake god. And the wall around it is like translucent, but you can see it's like snake skin, so it's like the snake is kind of closing in on you. And you know how like most of these games have like red zones or whatever where like explosions just start going off. This is just like the snake, you can see it from wherever you are, like the snake in the sky fucking throwing flame balls down. Like it's just looks really cool. Yeah.
I want the snake to just contract and slowly just suffocating the
No, that's what's that's what's happening. The wall is snake. It's translucent, but it is snake, and it is slowly.
You're in the snake.
Yeah, you're in the wall itself. The storm is like when you look at it, it's got this snake skin sheen on it, so it is optically like yes.
I don't need a storm. I just want a big
snake. Yeah,
solid snake. Yeah,
solid snake. Give me a really solid snake.
Yeah, agreed. This one's not cutting it, IMO. It seems good. I'm watching some gameplay footage. I watched some. I think it might end up being too twitchy for me, because like I feel like I look at this and I go, I'm gonna fucking lose every time. And that's just gonna like not.
I look at that and just wish that it was sad that Sekiro got absolutely. I mean, it got some post game support, but it was not no traditional From expansion sort of thing.
And they still at this point it's like
they're gonna do a sequel.
At this point, it's actually like too far, right? Like
when they did the next gen / Stadia release, that was essentially them putting a pin. But they'll do Activision called it a franchise when they said the first sales numbers came out, so they'll do another one.
That's good.
But I always thought I really wish that game had some sort of co-op, even if it ended up being separate from
fun.
the single player game where they decided to say, hey, we're actually not doing summoning and yada, yada, yada. We're going to make this a completely solo experience. And that's fair.
Yeah.
I also wish it still had that, so that people like I still want to beat that game, and I don't want to. I'm not saying mechanically I understand how it would work. I'm just
listen. We figured out how to do co-op during that one save point.
We did
stream.
Do that, yeah.
You know, we each take half the controller. We'll get through the rest of the game. No big deal.
But I do hope with Sekiro 2 or whatever, like stuff like I'm not going to end up playing this Battle Royale game, but it does remind me that I wish there was a multiplayer something with Sekiro. I think it would be really fun to be playing that game and coordinating with someone else. Going through.
I might check this out. This seems like it's well made. Like I 100% look at this and go like, yeah, damn, this looks good. But I also look at it and go like, ow, my wrists hurt. I don't know that I can. There is
a fair amount of because it is like melee combat. Once you're in close, it auto attacks too. And normally, like again, the way that they've kind of made the map size and densities, you're mostly doing one-on-one fights. So like that hasn't been an issue at all. Like there's never been a scrum where like suddenly there's like three people in like a tight space and then it has trouble deciding which one to attack or anything like that.
Oh, it's not even that. It's mostly these like rapid turns and someone moves past you and you're trying to like locate them.
Right, true.
Yeah. That's
there
the
is
part
a lot
where
of like, oh shit, like this person's gonna fucking teleport and or grapple hook past me and like there's definitely a lot of points where it's like
I don't have the skill anymore these days. I just know talk to me about this game back in my Jedi Academy days and things would be different. This is exactly what I wanted.
Right.
Anyway,
Naraka Bladepoint.
Naraka Bladepoint. Very sad. And that's is that beta still going, or is that beta was just
I believe that beta is over now. By the time you're hearing
by the time this is out. Yeah.
It'll definitely be down, but it seems like they're doing play tests kind of regularly. So you can go check out the Steam page and see when the next one is.
All right. I have like a couple quick questions or comments that came into gamingadvice.com.
Right. That sounds like a warning.
Well, this first one is scary to me. Hey there, Waypoint crew. Alex in Massachusetts here. Last week's Halloween maze email brought back memories of poorly supervised attractions I too worked as a youth. As a reminder, last week we had an email about someone who worked at a Halloween maze and just played GBA games the whole time because no one came through the maze. One particular haunt, a simple guided tour through a walking path around someone's farm property, used a nearly entirely volunteer force of local teens to run most of the scares. A friend of mine had been working there for about a week and talked me into joining him. When I arrived, I was handed a random store-bought werewolf mask and told to find a bush to hide in. Very well run haunt here. A couple small scares later, I was bored and went to find my friend. We hatched a plot to make things more interesting. I left my mask with him and went back to the entrance where I explained to the guide that I'd be posing as a guest for the next tour. I feigned nervousness as I approached the next party and sheepishly explained that, quote, my friends all ditched me and I already bought a ticket. Can I just come with you so I didn't waste $5 coming on my own? The mom of the group was quick to give an awe and welcome me to the group. I told my friend to find a place early on in the path so I wouldn't be with them long. He jumped out almost immediately after we started. I went, ooh, werewolf, scary, boo, lame. The group turned to me like, oh no, we accidentally let the worst kid ever into our group. Just as my werewolf buddy leapt onto me, feigned a few slashes, and dragged me by my feet into the cornfield. It worked marvelously, a little too marvelously. Members of the group ran, and the guide had to wrangle them and explain that I was a worker before they would continue. We were asked to go home as, quote, we have enough scares without you actually scaring people. I thought that was the point.
That's extremely good. That's wonderful.
Very funny. This is what happens. You need someone to explain you can't just let 15-year-olds decide where the scares are going to be. They're going to pick bad things.
Or the manner in which they're delivered. It's inspired, but it only works because nobody got to consent to like, so here's exactly how we're going to fuck you up. You know how like nothing bad is going to happen to you? We're going to make you question that assumption.
Exactly. God. This one comes in from Ben, who says, I want to bring up a specific area of food idiosyncrasies that I haven't heard mentioned yet on the podcast. Public school lunches. Specifically, the unique brand of culinary innovation that happens among students in the cafeteria, and amid a mix of desperation, severe lack of resources, and sheer chaotic curiosity to try to spice up the awful cafeteria food that they served us. Chicken patties, hamburgers wrapped in tin foil, and French toast sticks, all stiff as plastic with syrup that had the weird film on the surface. I love pizza, but the subpar early 2000s Domino's quality pizza we were given to eat in 5th grade just wasn't cutting it. One day, maybe on a dare, probably out of boredom, I spread grape jelly on a slice of pizza and took a bite, expecting it to taste terrible. And you know what? It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
The sweetness added a nice extra zing to the pizza, which must have lacked in sauce, right? For a few months after that, I'd occasionally put grape jelly on pizza if I was having a lackluster day, as a treat. None of my friends understood it. Was I an underappreciated genius in 5th grade? Was my body on the verge of puberty, just craving some bizarre flavor combinations? Was I for something my underdeveloped was I craving something for my underdeveloped palate that it couldn't conceive of? Hawaiian pizza? And in the absence of pineapple and ham, I kept kosher at the time and was still a picky eater. I reached for a fruit-adjacent substance in an attempt to replicate it. Who could say? Hawaiian pizza rules, though. Love the pod, long live the food bucket.
Yeah. I don't think that's any weirder than putting honey on pizza, It's
bread and cheese and fruit. This is a classic combination.
That's a charcuterie board, basically.
We've thought about pizza as its own thing. What do you mean we did it again?
I'm just saying, like, it's very common amongst, like, young kids, like, dares, like, boredom.
Sure.
It results in, like, someone... hey, the classic, like, take all food on your plate, mix it together, and then whoever loses the dare has to take a bite.
Mix everything in the soft drink,
100%.
thing, 100%.
Yeah, like I get that. I think what is unique about this situation is that they return to it. Like, this is all usually like a one-off of boredom.
I see.
Like, this is like, no, I've discovered something. So I think this is why your friends were looking at you that way. It was like, we thought it was funny that you ate the grape jelly on the pizza. You don't have to keep putting the grape jelly on the pizza.
But it's good. Turns out it's
thanks.
great.
No thanks. Next time I have friends over post-vaccine, I'm going to put out a bunch of jellies with my pizza. What's that there for? Just
in case.
A lot of pizzas with like fancy vinegars over the top too, like real similar.
Yeah.
Like, it's already, the call's coming from inside the Pizza Hut.
I need these strawberry chunks on top of my pizza.
God. This I feel like is a Rob thing. Hannah writes in and says, it's ramp season. Do y'all fuck with ramps? If yes, favorite recipes. If not, why not? And also, have some food porn. Bacon, ramps fried in the bacon fat and butter, and then duck eggs fried in after. Ooh. This stuff all looks great. This is just good food looking. This just looks like good food. Rob, do you want to explain what a ramp is? For people who don't know, like me, I Googled it.
I don't know how to describe them. Like, I've had them. I have them for like the 2 weeks they show up around here.
I've never had. I may have had them. I don't even know what a
ramp is. They make it easier to walk. Let's go.
That's what I thought you meant.
Nah, it's for doing sick flips off of.
That's also what I thought.
Like they're like little spring greens, but like super seasonal.
Yeah.
The second image is what ramps are, which are I think that they're an onion. Is that right? Those look like onions to me,
I think.
But like onion, like not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a North American species of wild
they look
onion.
Like leeks, I guess.
It is wild. It was onion adjacent.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I've never had them. They look great. They look like these would look like very good greens to me.
Mm-hmm.
But they only show up briefly? Is this what I'm understanding?
Well, so I think there's a couple things.
Pretty sure.
One is like a ton of people don't get at, like, they're a little bit scarce. They have, I think, a short like period where they're in season, and they're not a hugely like commercial crop. So it's not like people are like, we got to get these ramps from Mexico up to stores all around the US. Oh, it's ramp season in California. Bring out the California ramps. That's not how it goes. So like around here, at least, I started having them because I'm pretty sure in a fit of optimism for like 2 years running, we signed up to a really aggressive CSA. And like when the ramps were there, it was pretty good. When it was root vegetable season, it was less good.
Yeah.
But like, but like so that's the thing. Like if you want to go like get ramps, they might show up at like a nice grocery store. They definitely will show up at like a fancy farmer's market
situation, but only in that window when it's available. And that's I mean, that's kind of like a nice way to live life. It's just not the way my life is structured currently, is what I will say. We got another Pop-Tart email from Jake. Not another one from Jake. Jake has not previously emailed us about Pop-Tarts. We just got another Pop-Tart email, and this one's from Jake, who says, I have a food oddity to bring up to see if anyone else stands with me or against me. When Pop-Tarts came up on Friday's episode, it struck him. Like many people, I think Pop-Tarts are better when heated, but due to convenience and location, I more often eat them right out of the wrapper. However, when I eat them, I eat both at the same time. I don't take one out and then the other one, but rather take bites essentially out of a double layered Pop-Tart. It's ultimately the same ratio of goo to dough, but with the added bonus of keeping it in the wrapper.
Yeah, why does it feel so different to me?
Yeah.
Why does thinking about that make my throat dry up?
Yes.
It does.
And like,
I don't think it's the same ratio. I don't think it is. I think you'd have to be taking very tiny nibbles.
Right.
No, hold on, but it should be the same ratio, right?
Right. No, it is the same ratio.
You're having two things of identical ratios.
Here's the thing. It is the same ratio, but the amount of dry stuff going into your mouth is doubled.
It's higher.
Even if the goo is doubled, but the amount of dry stuff is also doubled, which it's just like
there's an exponential. I need more goo as there's more dry stuff exponentially.
Right. Totally.
Not on a linear scale.
That's not a linear.
Right?
Yeah, that's how I always feel. Just
that's how I feel.
A little more goo.
A little more goo and
that
dry stuff. Yeah. Also, it's worth saying that initial bite is going to be drier than the middle bite,
100%.
because the edge of the Pop-Tart is all dry
because it's tart.
Because it's right, exactly. The tart's in the middle, exactly. Right. Yeah. Yes. This makes it easier to eat one-handed. To just need to occasionally push the wrapper down more or the Pop-Tarts up. What is the scenario?
Yeah, damn. I have a real hard time eating a single Pop-Tart one-handed. I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? But you put both of them together.
Well, no, it's like I see this like if you have something in your other hand, imagine getting a wrapped 2-pack of Pop-Tarts the way they come. I can see a way of opening it with your mouth.
I got my PS5 controller in my hand. I'm doing gardening in NieR. I got to check in on my garden.
Right.
I don't have time to eat a full meal right now. I don't have time to pick up a single Pop-Tart in one hand even. I gotta rush through this meal.
Well, it's just like they already come in the 2-packs, right? This is that specific 2-pack situation.
They do. Yeah.
So you grab the box, you grab the 2-pack out of the box with one hand still. Yeah. You bite and open the packet, right? You still have 2 things in your hand.
No, I'm not biting the packet.
Well, that's the only way you can open it one-handed. This is what I'm going through the motions here of doing this entire process one-handed.
You're saying.
I'm okay just putting the thing down for a second.
Yeah, put the controller down. It's fine. The flowers
assume that you can't for whatever reason. This is how you would do this, right? And then you push down the wrapper around both of the Pop-Tarts.
Like genuinely, if I was one-handed, you would. Yeah, fine. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So this is what they're doing here, and I think it ends up being a little bit more efficient to eat the whole packet this way if you only have the one hand to like do it with. But I would still put it down and just take one out and do it. It extends the. You know what? I would rather have Pop-Tarts for longer than like weird big dry bites.
I don't want the double bite. I'm not trying to go through them that quick. Here's the thing. If I'm eating Pop-Tarts, it's already a day where I feel like I don't have time for a real meal in that place.
This is why like the Pop-Tart has become associated with bad feelings for me. Like I do not like the Pop-Tart because the Pop-Tart is like the food of things are not going well. Things are not going to plan.
You're not wrong at all. In fact, I mostly associate it with this next question, but go ahead. We can stay here.
Well, all I was going to say is like it's associated with me with breakfasts at work, because that's what I would take from the vending machines when I would work during college, right? Like it's like the easiest form of breakfast was the Pop-Tart at the job already, just kind of like waking up and eating it while I sit there and nobody comes in the door.
The Pop-Tart for me, like Rob, I do associate it with like needing to eat quick or being broke and like having some Pop-Tarts as a treat. You know what I mean? Which raises this last question from Alex, who says, "Hi, Waypoint crew. All the recent food discussions have got me thinking about the weird improvised meals my friends and I would end up making when undergrads at university. In my first year, I lived in a hall that didn't have a kitchen. There was a canteen that served meals, but if you missed the meal times, you were out of luck. We also weren't allowed to have any appliances like toasters in our rooms, except for a kettle, because of the supposed fire risk. This led to lots of improvised making meals with just a kettle or the secret toasty maker one guy kept hidden under his bed if the canteen had closed." That's some contraband right there. That's fucking wild. It is. As
are we making some like microwave ramen in this kettle?
Yeah, if you're not gonna have a place open at all times for students who are going to be working at weird hours anywaes to get food, you need to allow them access to things they can cook food with.
To a kitchen of some sort, yeah. As we were all on that student loan money, most of us didn't have the cash to be spending loads on eating out or getting takeout all the time. I perfected a system where I boiled various sauces and vegetables for pasta or curries using precise arrangements of bowls of boiling water or just boiling things straight in my kettle. One guy managed to make a full Sunday roast with a whole chicken using only a kettle.
What?
And one friend used to collect nettles from the grounds to make nettle soup.
Sure.
It's kind of wild in retrospect that we didn't have access to kitchens, given how much we were all having to pay in rent. What are the most impressive meals you've managed to make with very limited equipment and resources available to you?
How do you roast them? How
do you roast the chicken in the kettle?
You roast a chicken with just hot water. You boil it. A boiled chicken, I guess. But whole chicken? Where?
It has to be a little chicken. It has to be a little baby,
like a little Cornish hen.
Like a little Cornish hen.
Sure, but even then, you pour the hot water from the kettle onto this thing, and then it sits there in the quickly.
No, I think you don't think you put it in the kettle.
There's no way you can fit a Cornish hen in a kettle.
It's a big kettle.
It's a
chicken in the kettle. Chicken in the kettle sounds like a British.
Yeah, right.
A British meal to me.
Oh,
how to rotisserie grill a chicken on a? No, that's not a kettle. That's not a real kettle. I gotta find a. I have to find this. Someone has to have done
like
this.
That chicken might not have been done all the way.
I feel like we would know that. I feel like we would hear the rest of that story, and then everyone got.
And then everyone got food
because
poisoning.
Everyone had a piece of that chicken. If someone in your fucking on your dorm floor or whatever in your residence hall had roasted a chicken in a kettle.
I think this is one of those things where chicken can be real dangerous.
Yeah.
But the odds are pretty good. Nobody will get sick if you'll prepare it. Like, the odds are still probably in your favor. But if it goes bad, it's going to go real bad.
Yeah.
And that kettle chicken situation will be investigated.
How to make chicken... Wait, okay. Here's another thought. What if the chicken was pre-cut and just done in turns? That way you're dropping a breast in the kettle, cooking that.
Okay, single breasts though are like they're enormous. That's the problem.
They are.
Like
I know.
But
they're smaller than the kettle. They're smaller than the whole chicken, rather.
The holes
through.
Yeah. I guess bit by bit.
What's the alternative?
No, yeah. I mean, that's what I was wondering. It's like, did they put it in a pot and then pour boiling water and then make more boiling water?
That's
just continuously.
Yes. See, that was my assumption, Cado.
Right?
Where there's a sort of.
Are they draining the cold water?
Thing.
Right, exactly.
And then putting in more hot water? I guess that's possible.
Eventually that chicken will be boiled.
That's miserable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
Just let these kids have a hot plate.
What? Yeah, that's fucked up. That's
Well,
what
also,
I was thinking. I was
nothing
like, how do
stopping
you
those
do
kids
that?
from getting a hot plate,
Right.
which is what I did.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
sure. Uh-huh.
When
we had
my
kitchenettes
partner
in
and I
our
moved into my dorm
dorms.
room illegally.
This is bizarre to me.
Yeah, like the first thing we got was a hot plate and a coffee maker.
Yeah.
And we're like, now this is our first apartment, this tiny dorm room.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm watching people do this now on YouTube. It's gross. You can
I made
totally
a lot of good
fit.
breakfast.
You can fit
on the hot plate.
You can fit piece by piece. You could fit it.
Right. Of course. Of course.
That's the way. That's
Sure.
the way people are doing it. I don't love it.
God,
I don't,
That
no.
can't be
do
good.
not love it.
That's
do
gonna
not love
leave
it.
some sort of contaminant deep in the
Oh
bowels
yeah,
of
that
this
kettle
fucking-
is now your that kettle.
That is
your
the meat
chicken
kettle.
kettle.
That's your
Yeah.
chicken. That's the meat kettle at this point.
It's got a big mouth though.
I don't like it.
Oh, God.
Anyway, thanks, Alex. I all this is to say, when I was in this situation, I ate a lot of Pop-Tarts. I actually got really good at making ramen, is what I did. Just like ramen plus fresh vegetables, eggs, like
Had a lot of
sort of thing.
A lot of rice with stuff on it. Specifically,
Yeah, sure.
The rice, bean, and a soft boiled egg, or like a runny sunny side up egg on top, is actually a fucking great meal. That's a whole carbohydrate right there. Fucking rice and black beans. Fucking love it.
That's energy, baby.
Yeah.
That's energy to go to your 9 a.m. class. And
See, I
Pay
never
attention.
felt poor as long as there was like plentiful fresh salsa or pico de gallo
Sure.
in the jammed into the tiny fridge.
Yeah, that adds up. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So it's like, good news, honey. It's my homemade French toast, homemade being that fancy Pepperidge farm bread dipped in some eggs and toasted with huevos rancheros for some reason.
Hell yeah.
Let's go, baby.
But that's the thing. You
I'm
had
your man.
you had a
I
place
can
to
provide
cook.
for you, girl.
God.
Stick with me, baby. I got a single all to myself.
That's the thing is like that. So that was the thing is in college, my first year, I had like a hell situation. We had a suite and I had like a roommate in my room plus
Yeah.
4
Love
other
that.
people in the suite. It was so cramped and miserable. We had one bathroom between us. It sucked. It was like the worst. And
Jeez.
like, I hope Frankie is doing okay out there. But he was kind of an annoying roommate to have. Then I'd become friends with someone who was an RA and about to become, I want to say he was about to become like the resident, not just whatever the above the resident assistant or resident advisor was, like the head of a building, basically. And he was like, listen, I can make some things happen for you. I can get you and a friend of yours singles in this tower that I'm in. And so I moved into that tower. The kitchen was way worse because it was a kitchen. It was 2 kitchens on the top floor that were poorly maintained and had to service the entire building versus even when I was in the suite, the kitchens there were better maintained. I think probably because it was a freshman dorm where like they wanted those kitchens to look nice and serviced way less people, all said, because it was not per suite, but it was per floor in the building, and they were small buildings. So, it's a different situation. I'm so glad I'm not in college anymore. What a fucking miserable way to live that was.
There were things that I internalized as like cute and plucky and scrappy that now I'm like, oh, that's just misery.
It's just misery. It's just not good. Yeah, 100%. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you for sending in letters. You can send them to gaming@vice.com if you want to partake in the festival of emails. That's a thing I've just decided that we're in the middle of
Great.
now. We're in email festival.
I remember that machine from BioShock.
Yeah, the festival of emails. That's what it said.
Come back when you get some
it's what's
money,
happening in
buddy.
the opening of the JRPG. You just bought. Great news, sweetie. It's the festival of emails. Nothing bad can happen today. As you know, it's the most important day in our kingdom's history.
Yeah, perfect.
Festival of Emails is just like, I feel like is that an alternate NieR ending, but it's actually a Festival of Meals?
Yes, exactly. That's actually...
Send me to the Festival of Meals. That's where I want to go.
Oh, the Festival of
I
Meals.
love that
Me
rat
too.
Ratatouille. Emil.
That's him.
That guy's a party animal.
Honestly, if that's what happened to Emil in the end, good for Emil.
I love
Congrats
that
to Emil.
TikTok trend about the Emil musical that they were doing.
Oh my god. Again, honestly, please make an Emil musical.
Yeah.
I guess they kind of did. It's called NieR because every song in this. Did you hear this? I heard this over the weekend. I've not verified this claim. My understanding is the soundtrack in this remake is different, or in this port or whatever is new. There's new versions of all this music, and that Yoko Taro told whoever the composer was, like, you need to add vocals to every track this time, not just specific ones, to everyone.
So my
your
family,
specific family beef, yeah. Yoko Taro said, we want to annoy Patrick's family specifically. It's so funny. Anyway, thank you for taking part in the Festival of Emails, sending your questions in, gaming@vice.com. You can find me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. Where can people find you, Rob?
At Rob Zachney.
Hopefully getting a nap is my hope.
I several times tried to take a screen capture. Rob was like firmly.
No, they're fine little micro sleeps. Leave me alone.
That's why I finally wrote. I was like, Rob, you could just leave. Like, it's cool. And you're like,
I wasn't missing anything.
He wrote.
Yeah.
Said, no, I must listen about orchids.
Yeah, it's so funny. Anyway, Rob, please get some rest. Patrick, where can people find you on the
Patrick
internet?
Klopik.
Cado.
At @A_Cado_appears.
You can follow everything we do, twitter.com/waypoint, waypoint.vice.com. Thank you to Bowen for letting us use the track Miss You off the EP Pal machine. Find out more about that, waypoint.zone/BOEN. I have good news, everybody. A peach flower has blossomed in my garden.
Oh,
here we go.
That's I have everything I need for the lunar tier now, baby. I got peach, I got pink, I got indigo. The thing is, if I end up with only 10 pink seeds, I have to make a decision, which is, do I give them over for the quest or do I replant them?
Right, but it's the middle of the day. You can plant one now, and by the time you revisit the game this evening, won't you be all right?
No, because they're not even at the seed stage yet. They're just flowers. They're not going to be seeds until tomorrow.
If you replant them, will they breed true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I could just plant them, or I can guarantee that. That's the thing. I can guarantee, as long as I save one, I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'll check up on with all this next time. I hope everyone has a great week. We have any what's coming at the end of the week? We got anything to tease? Is Pokemon? Can we talk about with Pokemon Snap out this week?
I can't say anything
you can't
about
say a
that
word.
shit.
Okay.
Pokemon Snap is a game that's coming out at the end of this week, is what I can say.
That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Just think about that.
By the end of the week, we can talk about Pokemon Snap.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, sure, totally.
We can talk about your article. It'll roll.
Yeah, it'll roll. It'll have been up for a couple days.
Is there anything else? Does anyone have anything else to tease for later this week?
No, I'll probably write about Returnal by Thursday, whenever the
that'll drop. That drops this week, right? That drops on Friday.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So
at some point, I'm looking forward to sharing with you all the network architecture I'm building for my media library, and the services that I'm going to employ to heading in that direction.
All right, yeah.
Like what's going to serve the media? That's the real question.
Yeah.
You're so much more interested in this part than the actual listening to any of the shit you're going to do.
But this is the joy.
It's fun, yeah.
This is the joy of it.
Figuring
the
out
joy
all the
is
little
building the
technical
machine
bits.
sometimes.
I get it.
I also
get it.
I do, but I'm Patrick. I'm kind of like coming to my homie's aid here. I'm kind of actually with you. Is the thing. I just don't. Well, I'm not trying to pile on, but I'm kind of with you.
No, it's just not my thing. But I understand. Like, I know I have so many people in my life,
yes,
especially in video games, that that is their thing. It's like I'm glad that's why you build it. I come to your Plex. You've done the work.
If you build it, he will come. He is Patrick.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving me your Plex key. And on that note of advocating piracy, fuck capitalism, go.
Yeah, you can make rips.
Nothing illegal about running a Plex. All I am doing is sharing my legally acquired media that I can do what I want with.
Yeah,
that's how those licenses work. We'd all just be in a better place, and so we should find practical solutions to making the world more like the one we want there to be. We'll be back next week. Bye, or this week, later this week. Bye.
Remember when a bunch of musicians were like, damn, these kids are downloading MP3s and buying our albums because they like the tracks they're hearing. We must stop them. They need to pay us for those tracks.
Do you remember when last week or 2 weeks ago, the dude, a person who was on the Days Gone team was like, hundreds of thousands of people were stealing our game. That's money out of my pocket. Those people weren't going to buy your fucking game, man.
That's not how that shit works.
Did you see the part where the owner of Spotify was like, I'd be happy to buy a British Premier team?
Oh my God.
What?
Oh, this is the thing.
Right?
We were better off. We were better off with piracy.
Like 18 months ago was like, musicians just need to hustle harder. I'm sorry. You can't just cut an album every 2 years and like live on that. And then last week he's like, yo, if anyone's selling a Premier League team, I'm buying.
But I can, yeah. I can live on that.
Rip to you, but I'm different, I guess.
Yeah,
Oh, fuck. God. Fuck that.
All right, we're done this podcast.
Yeah, we finished it. Punch alligators with super fists, like
that's what someone said. It's like it makes a lot. Fits a lot more.
It would only be better if you roundhouse kicked them.
I mean, the punching in. I mean, we could talk about this, but like, the punching in that. I'm sure you saw me at least punch someone once in that DLC, and it was dope.
Punch without aiming,
especially because it doesn't. Didn't explain anything. Yeah, we'll save it. We'll talk about that. Some catching up on that before the.
When is that new one again?
May 7th. So like,
2 weeks.
It comes out on a Friday, unless you want to go to Australia and just go buy a copy at Walmart or something.
Take a flight.
All right. Are we ready to do a time notice?
No, Patrick left.
Oh, Patrick, literally, I was not on my camera, so I did not see that.
Literally just stood up and
perfect
fuck time that is.
Yeah, so I see. Ready to clap? Happy golf day, everybody.
Ooh.
I feel like we've just hit this day multiple times in the past. I feel like I would just be redoing old material.
Hit this day while we hit the links.
Yeah, there we go.
Why is it called links? What is the...
Well, I mean, originally, like in the Scottish tradition, they're golf links. The idea is that the holes are linked.
That makes sense.
Of course, yeah.
All right.
This is not true. That's not true, Rob.
It isn't? That's what I was told.
No. The word
man, I thought Rob was just doing... He could just be doing authoritative Rob, and I'm like, I'm going to pass on that trivia to someone post-vaccination. It's like, I'm going to be out like, you know what I heard? Did you know? My friend Rob told
There's
me.
a Scots language word. Links comes from the Scots language word from Scots language, from the Old English word hink, which means rising ground or ridge. And refers to the area of coastal sand dunes and sometimes open parkland. So that means the area was already the links. And that's where they put
and they built a
golf
game
courses.
on top of the geography.
They built a game on top of it.
Gotcha.
Apparently.
Wow.
Oh, that's so interesting.
I also would have assumed...
I feel like watching the British Open like 5 times 20 years ago like misinformed me.
Apparently it means something specific, too. Like... This article makes it seem as if to play on links is to play a certain type of golf because of the actual way links are compared to other types of, because it's a coastal course. I wonder if it's like
more naturalistic where you're not like manipulating the ground they do with like actual golf courses, or
that might be the
well, that's kind of what I was talking about, like that those courses are less manicured,
right?
Than like American golf courses, like they plant them in the middle of a fucking desert and they still look like they're,
right?
You know, in lush, temperate climes. But also when I think about it, the only links courses that really occur to me are all in that like coastal environment with the tall grasses.
Lots of water hazards. The
big fuck you bunkers that are like 12 feet deep.
Bunkers. Yeah, exactly. yes. All right.
We never clapped. We just
we did not clap.
Talked about golf for a while.
43. All right.